Are you sure? Okay.
What's your record with them?
We had a couple extra trustees.
Is that what it was?
We
Okay, thank you and welcome to the, can you hear me? I have it pushed.
Let's go a little closer.
There, can you hear me? No,
No,
it's
we
not
don't.
working.
We'll work on that.
Okay. We are, oh, thank you. All right, welcome. We are calling this meeting to order, the Vista Unified School Board at 6:12 PM. So the first order of business, we are going to do the flag salute, so. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right.
Thank you. All right, let me look at the next is, oh, and then let's do that. We did it out of order, but we'll do the roll call. Okay, trustee Alvarado,
here.
trustee Vargas,
Here.
trustee Markov,
Here.
trustee Martin.
Here.
And I'm trustee Morocco and I'm here. Okay, and then the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge the Payom Kowichum, the people of the West, as the traditional land caretakers of the land on which Vista Unified School District was built and its surrounding traditional cultural landscapes. Today, the Payom Kowichum, are known as Lucenio and are made up of 7 bands: La Jolla, Pala, Palma, Pachanga, Rincon, San Luis Rey, and Soboba. We, Vista Unified School District, are mindful of the indigenous peoples in this place, and we pay our respects to the Lucenio, past, present, and future. We are grateful to have the opportunity to be part of this community in Lucenio territory and to honor their history, culture, and perseverance of spirit. Thank you. So the first order of business is, I need to report out actions taken in closed session. And we did have. On January 16th, 2025, the board in closed session by unanimous vote took action to approve the notice of intent to dismiss for the following employee, ID number 25-0116-1, a classified employee. Okay, and then the next, is the next, report approval, approve the agenda. So we are going to remove from the agenda item number 11A. As we did not, it was removed from the closed session agenda. So, is there anything else with regard to the agenda?
It'll be
No, that's later. Anybody have anything else on the agenda? Okay, so I will entertain a motion to, approve the agenda.
I motion to approve the agenda
Okay, we have a motion.
with the elimination of item 11A.
with the elimination of item 11A.
Okay,
Second.
okay, so it was moved by trustee Markov, and it was seconded by trustee Martin. Okay, any questions? Comments? I will call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, and we are going to start now our public hearing. Here's this.
Right into your.
I read it on my computer. So this is the time of year that we do our annual reorganization of our corporation. The USD Improvement Corporation. And so, I needed a motion to appoint.
Could you jump on hold? one
Point of order.
Went too fast. We have got to do, poll cards.
Oh, sorry, I
Thank
apologize.
you, Chris. for reminding us.
Thank you, Chris.
No problem.
Okay,
You have the only poll card.
yeah, I know.
Should be under there.
It's right here, it is, I got it. All right, so we are going to agenda item 5A, public comment, not on the agenda. I would like to call from Vista Irrigation District Scholarship, Peter Kuczynski. Did I say that correctly?
Close enough.
Okay, thanks. You will have 3 minutes for your comment.
Perfect. Shouldn't take me that long.
Don't forget to push the.
Push to talk.
You have to hold.
Oh, you have to hold it the whole
Yes,
time?
yes.
Oh, my goodness. This is hard. Okay, President Morocco, members of the school board, Superintendent Doyle, student representatives, and Vista Unified staff. Thank you for your time and opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'm Peter Kuczynski, a husband, father of 4 children educated at Vista Unified Schools, a Vista resident for over 40 years, and a director of the Vista Irrigation District Division 3. Like you, I also have to serve on the board. It's good to see you on that side and me on this side. I know I can't ask you to take any official action tonight, but I will challenge each of you to take action. I want to share with you a fantastic opportunity for your graduating seniors, the Vista Irrigation District Scholarship Contest. Up to 6 scholarships can be awarded from $1,000 to $3,000 to graduating seniors for a total of $10,000. The scholarship is applicable to college, university, and vocational schools. Yes, vocational schools. Applying is very easy. You go to the Vista Irrigation website, www.vidwater.org. You complete the application form. You write a personal statement and submit 2 letters of recommendations. You submit a 2-page essay on the prompt, and you're gonna like this one. Imagine you're a high school teacher. Create a Vista's water supply. Sources of Vista's water supply. How the Vista Irrigation District help Vista to grow into the community of today. And the challenges the district may face in the future in supplying water to the Vista community. Your call to action, spread the seniors to apply. Last year, only 3 scholarships were awarded for a total of $6,000. We left $4,000 on the table due to a limited number of applicants and qualified submissions. Don't let this fantastic opportunity not be fully awarded again. The deadline is 4 p.m. on February 21st. Additional information on the scholarship program, I can provide that for you for distribution, and I thank you for your time. If you have any questions, you need any additional information, let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Make sure they get them.
Yes.
And if anybody in the audience wants them, they're here. So if you've got high school seniors or no high school seniors, it's here.
Thank you, Mr. Kuczynski. That's very, very nice.
Thank you very much. Have a great meeting.
Okay, so we are now going to do our public hearing. A notice of our annual meeting of Board of Directors Improvement Corporation. So I need a motion to appoint ex officio the members of the Vista Unified School District Board of Trustees to the Board of Directors of the VUSD Improvement Corporation.
I motion,
Just as I moved.
so moved.
And I need a second.
Second.
Before you vote, did you want Dr. Lucia to explain it, or are you comfortable? The purpose of it,
I think it's out there as well.
briefly.
Briefly, the school district has several nonprofit organizations associated with it that are an intended purpose and have some explicit areas of responsibility. This one is responsible for selling bonds for the district. So this one is exclusive. It is a nonprofit organization, but you have to have a corporate entity sell your bonds. And ex officio means by nature of. You would be the board of directors of that, overseeing any sales for Measure LL or certificate of participation programs.
Thank you, Dr. Loescher. Any questions? Any comments? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? With that, the motion passes. We are now closing the regular board meeting, the regular meeting. Okay, so this is confusing. The regular meeting of the USD Improvement Corporation at this time. Okay, and we are reopening this meeting of the Vista Unified Improvement Corporation. Wait. Oh, okay, did I do that right?
So where are you on your list?
Well, okay, so we did the,
We
did the vote.
You're good.
okay, we are reopening the meeting of the Vista Unified School District Improvement Corporation
If you have to
annual
identify
meeting.
officers, keep going.
Okay. The annual meeting of the VUSD Improvement Corporation is now in session. We will now hear nominations for the offices of president, vice president, and secretary. It is recommended that those nominations match the nominations which were made on December 17th, 2024 for school board.
So your current board president, your current board vice president, your current clerk.
Okay, is there any objection to us keeping with that? Okay, then I will need a motion to keep the offices the same as that were voted on December 17th, 2024.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so moved by trustee Markov and seconded by trustee Martin. I will now call, any questions? Comments? I will now call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. We are closing this meeting of the Vista Unified School District Improvement Corporation. We are now reopening the regular board meeting at this time. Okay,
Sorry about that official language.
that's okay, that's okay. It's a little confusing, but it's a technicality. Quick and easy. All right, so now we are going to have reports from school-related organizations, Vista Unified Teachers Association, or Vista Teachers Association. And Andrea Faye Miller.
Hello, I'm giving, I'm sorry, I'm giving the VTA report on behalf of Carrie Avila. Unfortunately, Carrie couldn't be here as she's attending a CTA event this evening. And I agreed to do this before I sounded like this. So I wanted to share with you all that I recently had the opportunity to meet with ed specialists throughout our district. Several special education members spoke with you before closed session last month. And I'm noticing common themes emerging from all of our special education staff. The common theme is that they are feeling overwhelmed and undervalued. They feel that their workload continues to increase and do not have the time and support to provide the attention that their students and families deserve. They acknowledge that the district has incentivized taking on more students to their caseload by compensating them, but ultimately recognize the truth that there are only so many hours in a day. While all of our bargaining unit members continue to feel spread thin by the increased demands of education in 2025, the reality is that some of our most impacted staff are in the special education department. I don't need to remind you about the teacher shortage throughout the district, state, and nation, but I will take this opportunity to remind you that there are tangible actions that the district and this board can take to ensure that we not only recruit the best educators, but retain them as well. This is what VUSD students deserve. Finally, I would like to express my gratitude to the district for sending both Carrie and me to the governor's budget workshop next Wednesday. And additionally, my team and I are looking forward to returning to the bargaining table next Friday. We hope to have continued conversations that serve to improve the working conditions of our members and to settle our conflict. Thank you.
Thank you. And now California School Employees Association, Marcella Ramos.
Good evening, board members, superintendent, cabinet members, and student board members. So I'm happy to start our report, our CSU report, with great news. Just on a great note, which is we started this year, 2025, with a classified professional development day. This is a professional development day that existed prior to the pandemic, the last one being in 2019. So we were thrilled that we were able to bring that back, especially hearing from our members that this is what they wanted. This is a great way for all of us to see each other. Some of us kind of work in silos, right? Working only in our school sites or departments, but we don't get an opportunity to interact, engage with each other outside of work, or during work, excuse me. So this was a great opportunity for us to do that. I learned from Dr. Doyle that there were over 700 employees that attended, and we are over, I believe, over 1,000 classified employees. So I do want to stress that's a success. That was great attendance. And so we definitely want to say, we want to see it continue. We definitely need it. And I'm also happy to hear that there will be opportunities to provide feedback, because I think our members want to get the opportunity to just say thank you. We appreciate it. And then also I just wanted to acknowledge that further along tonight, there's a contract that the board will be hopefully approving, 14A. There's a contract from Student Support Services focusing on providing training for what we call in this school district qualified bilingual staff. These are classified employees that have been evaluated on their bilingual skills to prove that they are in fact bilingual. And then on top of that is assessing their skills to do the role of an interpreter and translator, because this school district is in high need of having staff assist with communication with our families. And so I mentioned this because it's another example of success, and I want to highlight our value of collaboration. This is an example of collaboration, and here's why. This was a conversation that CSEA started with the district in the school year 2022-23. And it's just now 2025 that we're finally going to get training for these employees to serve, to get trained on what it means to do the role of an interpreter and translator. And the reason I say this is because the U.S. Department of Justice and the U.S. Department of Education does have a fact sheet meant for school districts to understand what are the steps that school districts must take to provide effective language assistance to our limited English proficient families. And this is one of the bullet points. School districts should ensure that interpreters and translators have knowledge in both languages of any specialized terms or concepts to be used in the communication at issue, and are trained on the role of an interpreter and translator, the ethics, that's where not everyone's familiar with, of interpreting and translating, and the need to maintain confidentiality. That's not common sense. You learn this through training. So I just want to applaud the district to pushing this along. And again, to listening to the need of our classified staff, our bilingual classified staff who are being asked to do this with no sort of training. Again, this impacts our families and therefore the success and progress of our students. This is very needed. So again, thank you. Just wanted to highlight that. And I just want to end it with, I hope that by next month I'm able to share in our report job classification updates or job descriptions. We have been in the process of updating, with the help of the district, updating our job classifications for all classified staff. Every 4 years, our jobs need to be updated and some have been long overdue. So hopefully next board meeting, we can discuss that further. And that's about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marcel. Okay, we are moving on to discussion action items. Number 8A is board discussion of plans for future use of parcel number 163-270-29-00740 Olive Avenue, Vista. That was known as the Vita property. I put this on the agenda because I thought that we should have a board discussion about this. Wanted to get it started, in terms of ideas. This was the property known as, like I said, Vita, so, I thought I'd start asking for maybe some ideas.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay,
I'd like to make the motion that the future use of the parcel 163-270-2900-740 Olive Avenue, Vista, California, 92083 be used for the school known as Vita, Vista Innovation Design Academy.
I second. Any questions?
My question is, what happened to the recommendations by the 7-Eleven committee and the long range facilities master plan? They were very clear with, recommendations for that land, and that was a committee that was a Brown Act committee.
I'd like to speak to my motion. That'll answer some of the questions, I believe.
Go ahead.
The process was very convoluted and flawed in many ways. And some of us saw some of it and some of us didn't see all of it. The decisions that were made didn't have a whole lot of details behind them. For example, Rancho Minerva. When the students were moved off of that campus, it caused overcrowding in 2 other campuses, Roosevelt and also Madison. As we went into this process, the decision was to move the Rancho Minerva students out of their school. And then all of a sudden, we're looking at putting Vita on the Rancho Minerva campus. And I'm saying all of a sudden because I'm pretty connected with the school district, but even I didn't see that coming as quickly as it did. The asset committee was reestablished, and this is where things started to kind of fall apart, if you ask me. The asset committee had a chair, and that chair was not able to run the meeting. From what I was told and what I heard from multiple sources is that the meeting was run mostly by Dr. Loescher. There was also a time in a school board meeting where Dr. Loescher said that the asset committee was established and that the auxiliary committees around it would be recalled in order to answer further questions. And this came about because the asset committee, their scope was narrowed so much that they weren't able to get all the answers that they needed. The meeting was told to me to be very heavy-handed, the asset committee meeting, very heavy-handed. And at that point, it appears, and this is optics, and optics are important, it appears that the district had a predetermined goal. And that the narrowing of the asset committee was part of this. Optics, in this case, look terrible, horrible. But it got even worse. We were told that there was going to be a 1-item board meeting for the Vita community. And a couple of days before this board meeting was to happen, it was canceled. This was an opportunity for the Vita community, the students, the families, and the staff to come to this board and to explain their concerns. And they had many. And they're valid. Their programs are very important to them. And they wanted to express that to the board. The board meeting was canceled just a few days before it was to happen. Two members of our board, one current and one from the previous board, asked to use this boardroom so that they could listen to the Vita community. And they were told that it would take 30 days to get a facility request for this room from board members. That's absurd. Having worked on a campus, it was as simple as going to the computer program for facilities, putting my name in, and it's done. A matter of seconds. And if the district has a 30-day waiting period just to write down a facility, then we need to look at that system too. As we all know the rest of this story, the two board members then asked to use the parking lot, and they were told no. And this was to listen to the students, the families, and the community out in the cold. No, they were told. Matter of fact, and I never saw this in my decades of being in this district, the gates at the bottom were padlocked. This is not collaboration. This violates our values of trust and respect. But those people showed up anyway. The two board members brought lighting, they brought sound, and they live streamed the meeting from in front of the lock gates that kept out the Vita community who just wanted to voice their concerns. I feel pretty strongly about this because of the way that they were treated. This district and this optically predetermined goal got even worse after that locked meeting. After the padlocked meeting. I asked to walk the campus and I was walked around the campus by the previous principal and the current principal. I looked at the facilities. I do have a little bit of background in construction. So yes, it is going to take some money to repair that campus, but it still has a lot of life left in it. And it is going to take a couple of million for the HVAC and maybe for some underground that should have been done anyway. But it doesn't need to be closed. And it specifically doesn't need to be closed and just left to be bulldozed for whatever reason, which I'm hoping will come up tonight. There seems to be predetermined goal, but also something that we're not really being told, like, what is this all about? What was the plan? And I ran on transparency, and so I want that plan to be put out there. Let's hear what the district is planning to do or wanted to do with the Vita property. That's a lot of acreage. But more importantly, it's a neighborhood school in a very dense area where those kids appreciate their school and they utilize that area. And the thought that they are going to be ripped away from their community is very, very painful for them and for the families and for the staff when the school still has life in it. Putting Vita over at Rancho Minerva to solve a Rancho Minerva problem because decisions were made without details when they evacuated, I shouldn't use that word evacuated, when they transferred the students to Roosevelt and to Madison, that's not the right response. One decision and we have 4 middle schools out of 5 that are disturbed. We have to do better.
Okay, thank you, Vice President Martin. I would like to get back to Trustee Alvarado's question. One of the things that you asked about the District Advisory Committee, and I'd like to point out that on the Friday letter that we had after the November meeting, it says that specifically it was asked if the Management Advisory Committee if the AMAC engaged in all the best practices listed by the state of California as part of the meeting structure. The answer to that question, as stated at the meeting, was no. So we did not follow best practices with that committee. So, and if you listen to the tapes, I have the tapes that I have listened to from that meeting. And it was reiterated that by, you know, by the chair of that committee, that, that it felt as if they were railroaded into this outcome. I think that, given that we did not follow best practices, given that I brought that up, I tried to bring that up numerous times when this process was taking place. And, was assured that we were, and now have the admission that we didn't. I'm hoping that, I'm wondering if trustee Martin would be willing to amend the motion to include a reconvening of that asset management committee. And maybe we can just revisit this entire process to come with a very fair outcome that will restore a good name and reputation with our community. Would they be amenable to that?
I would, as long as all the other committees that are necessary in order to have a full picture are reconvened as well.
Well, those best practices as outlined by the State Department of Education in the state of California are for specifically for that committee, a committee that was formed by us, you know, sending out applications, requesting applications from the public and you know, we had staff, we had to our stakeholder groups. So I would say that if we do that, we could probably come back next month and revisit any cleanup that we need to do in terms of, like, I think people have moved on and we might need to fill a few vacancies there, but and we can revisit more of the details there. So are you okay with that?
I would be, yes.
Like, then I also
Clarify
reiterate.
the motion.
Pardon
What's
me?
the full motion?
I'm sorry, what?
Can you clarify the full motion?
Okay. So the full motion would be to, we have to word it correctly, keep the Vita property. Sorry, to use the property and then
Want
get
me to
back
read
there.
it?
Yeah, go ahead, read it.
The motion,
Do your,
sorry. The motion for the future use of the parcel 163-279. I'm sorry, 270-2900, 740 Olive Avenue, Vista, California, to be used for the school known as Vista Innovation Design Academy. With
until probably, contingent upon the reconvening of the district advisory committee.
not contingent,
No.
with the allowance of reconvening the district asset committee.
I would say contingent, just because the asset committee may or may not want to keep that Vita property there. They may come up with something else, so we want to give them the freedom to do that.
Okay,
So just for clarification, to reconvene the asset management committee, we have to bring an official item back to you in the future. So you can make this motion, but there needs to be a separate item for which we can do to reconvene the asset management.
So
committee.
two separate motions, is that?
No, you would not make a motion tonight because it's not agendized.
Okay,
We would bring it back, but you can
Okay.
continue with your motion. I just wanted to make sure you
okay, so then the
understood. that-
contingency, the amendment is not necessary. is that
I don't think so at this point in
Okay,
time.
all right,
It wouldn't give us official direction. It needs to be agendized and come back in the future, which you can.
okay. All right, then I
Want me to read it
withdraw,
again?
no, I withdraw the,
you want me to read it again? I make a motion for the future use of the parcel 163-270-2900, 740 Olive Avenue, Vista, California, to be used for the school known as Vista Innovation Design Academy.
until such time as we hear. I would say until such time as we hear. Okay, well, because if we reconvene the district advisory committee, then we would like, I would think that we would like to give them the opportunity. Okay, but then that negates this motion.
You have to decide.
Okay, all right. I would say that. I would say that it should, the wording should be to the move to keep the. The use for that parcel would be the Vita school until such time as we get. alternate direction from any, from a district advisory committee. Does that work?
That's fine.
Okay, does that work?
Yeah, I mean, the advisory committee would make a recommendation. They wouldn't give you direction.
Okay, until such time as we get a
Recommendation.
recommendation. Okay, I think that that covers everything, because that gives us, that leaves it open.
Okay.
Okay, does anybody else have anything? Does that sound good to everybody?
I have questions.
Sure. Okay.
Dr.
Do you want to
Lozier,
get a second yet, or do you want to go questions first?
No, I already seconded it,
I just want to make sure
so,
everyone's clear.
yeah, Chris, do you have? I'm not sure she's got.
I have Vice President Martin's
Motion.
motion. And those changed a little bit, and then I have your motion, your
Second.
edited motion. But if you could second it just to cover.
It's seconded, okay, so that's actually Vice President Martin's motion, and I will reiterate my second.
Thank you.
Now we're.
Okay.
Dr. Lozier, can you come up here? From our long range facility, what are the infrastructure needs that you have an assessment for VITA?
Vita's needs were presented to the committee, but also have been listed online and are available for all of the committee via the long range facility master plan. It's roughly $58 million is the estimate. As of 2 years, market value from 2 years ago. A new estimate with escalation has not been made because we have not updated the plan. But typically you could plan at this juncture, it would be anywhere from 5 to 15% more.
And based on that 50 million, what's like the life expectancy of VITA?
The recommendation of the engineers was to begin construction on repairing Vita on that $58 million. The time frame that they gave is that it was eminent that we should begin within 3 to 5 years. 2 years have already elapsed off of that 3 years to 5 years.
And do we have $58 million in our bank account right now that we can transfer over for VITA?
We are expensed out of Measure LL funds. We would have to come back to the board looking at additional funds, but this evening we have a report on a few other fundings, but I don't know of a dedicated facility source that meets that criteria.
So nothing under Measure LL, but also what about Fund 40?
Fund 40 is currently oversubscribed. Fund 40 in total originally only had $40 million as part of the certificate of participation program. An additional $5 to $6 million was in that account before, but we've expensed over 50% of that. So the rest is committed in projects that are already board approved.
Is this the unified eligible to state funds that was recently passed by voters this last November?
Not to the best of my knowledge.
Got it. What are some other infrastructure needs as a district? We have obviously the VITA site, but what about other campuses?
We can speak to what's in the long range facility master plan that lists various other campuses. Every campus has needs. The estimated amount of the long range facility master plan as of 2 years ago was $1.3 billion of need.
So what I'm hearing is, there's a need to do about $50 million in changes to VITA over the next 2 to 3 years. That money currently is not there. And so therefore we can't move forward with some of these major projects, probably the minor stuff, not the big major projects. Is that an accurate statement?
The statement would be that for the funds that are currently tied up, you would have to release those funds in order to rededicate them to VITA. Once you rededicated them to VITA, some portion that I couldn't report on tonight, because I would need to hire an engineer and a consultant to go through that process, would have to triage through the $58 million in an order to go through. Keeping in mind that the same engineering team said that was the cost for repairs for VITA, that they were not certain that with VITA, which was a similar age to Beaubier, if their conclusion would not be the same at the end of it, of a additional amount that would be needed for VITA, which could be as much as a reconstruction.
Got it. And a reconstruction, how much would that be?
Well, what we can speak to is that the elementary school that we just reconstructed, the total project amount with all fees, all of the architects, all of the services surrounding it is approximately $100 million. An elementary school is clearly not a middle school. A middle school is generally speaking, not 4 times the cost, but it is a substantially larger property. And in dealing with some of the issues of VITA, keep in mind VITA is not just one campus. There's a front side of the campus, which has permanent buildings. There's a second part that actually was olive. And those are all buildings that were recommended for demolition, which would reduce the square foot of Vita that are there. So perhaps $180 to $200 million would be the best guess, but we would need to have an architect come in with an official cost estimate.
Thank you for that. So my concern with this motion is that we don't have the funding to repair Vita. And if we were to remain and keep it as is with students there, and even our staff, you know, it'll eventually become a safety risk. I know that right now we are able to operate, but without funding, we don't have the mechanisms to, you know, properly provide a safe learning environment and working environment for the staff. So I'll be voting against this motion. But it also, you know, presents another challenge that if we do decide to move forward with this motion, it also now leaves the Rancho Minerva site, which is a newer campus. What site, what year was that built?
2007 approximately, with commissioning shortly thereafter.
And what's the current infrastructure need at Rancho Minerva?
Currently, we're going into just about our 15-20 year cycle, so we know we need to do some civil engineering work. So approximately 4 million plus for civil engineering, maybe 5 million. There's building envelope work that needs to be done. It's pretty common for a facility of that age. And some additional items, but it's considered substantially less, and the urgency of the complete package of Rancho Minerva is a little different. Civil engineering work are for things like playgrounds and other items that need to be done. The building envelope work is work that helps to keep moisture out. That's really mold mitigation and prevention for the classrooms. But other items that are listed on the long range facility master plan are not considered eminent for Rancho Minerva. They're considered further out. I believe from the committee report, the architect responsible rated that as being more like 10 years or plus out for the total amount of time.
Got it. So 5 million versus 50 or 200 million if you want to rebuild the middle school. What about Rancho Minerva as a site? If we are not occupying it, what are our options in the school district?
Well, as part of any sort of a facility, you need to have a plan for the facility. That's what stops charter schools from making a petition on the facility. If you're to make a change on this facility and you're to say that it no longer is the future site for Vita, keeping in mind the board original vote was the plan was to move Vita there. It was a time to be determined that was stated during the board meeting. So the vote was made to move Vita there during the school consolidation process, but not a date determined. Because there was a plan in place, a charter school doesn't have a claim to Rancho Minerva's site. And therefore, a new plan would have to be developed and voted on by the board in a reasonable time fashion. Otherwise, a charter school could potentially have a claim if they so chose.
And what is a charter school? How does that impact us as a school district?
Well, that's hard to speak to specificity, but there's a few things. First of all, charter schools get a different rate for renting school district facilities, so it's more attractive to them than renting a private location. The next thing is that they then typically have facilities on par. There are different things that become attractive for charter school families. Some of them have to do with certain ways that and governance models within charter schools. Some of them have to do with the teaching or theme of a charter school. But one thing that school districts typically have is they typically have facilities with playground structures, other options that many charter schools don't have because they're located either on a private area or on a smaller area. So it's holds the potential that that facility may attract people.
Thank you for all of those answers to those questions, and I will be bringing a motion with regard to Rancho Minerva next month.
Okay.
I also do want to state, I'm not even speculating that we're gonna spend $58 million on Vita in the first year or in the second year and have to come up with completely bulldozing and rebuilding it for, what was it, $200 million? That's not conceivable. But it does have life still in it. And that campus was not given a fair shake. I'm talking about the process. That has to be redone. In order to keep trust with our community and to show respect and to collaborate, we actually have to collaborate with them. And that didn't happen.
And I'd like to reiterate that, yes, we I agree with, Vice President Martin on this. Basically, had we done this correctly from the get-go, we would not be in this situation right now. So the idea that it's gonna cost this much money or that we're under the gun, I want to also remind everybody that we were told with Beaumont had no time, and then suddenly we're moving Beauvier over there. So I think that we have the time to do this process correctly. If I recall, we got through it pretty quickly. And so that's all we're saying is that what happened here was, for lack of a better term, corruption. It really was. It was the district coming in with an agenda to get what it wants without taking into consideration the very people who we formed a committee to hear from. And if we're going to, if we're gonna say, oh, well, okay, so this was corruption, we're just gonna go ahead and go forward with it because it's too expensive not to. What kind of message are we sending to our kids if we do that? So, anyway, that's what I'm thinking. Anybody else have anything to say?
I want to speak to the long-range facilities master plan that was completed while trustee Morton and trustee Smithel were the liaisons to construction. And when it was completed, this is what they stated: based on an assessment of existing conditions of building infrastructure and site conditions, it's determined that the Vita site has low to mid-level suitability for building and would require a high degree of mitigation measures to bring the site to current building and education code standards. Dr. Loescher, when was that long-range facilities master plan completed?
That was a multi-year process that was completed and voted upon by the board just about 2 years ago.
Okay, so at that point, they had the comparison of costs, we had a review. And in that long-range facilities master plan, they also included Monte Vista because it was an older site. And so that site at the time had over $27 million worth of work that's needed without cost escalation. And so the intent to negate recommendations both by the long-range facilities master plan, by experts, and also the committee, the 7-Eleven committee, really puts this district in a financial situation that we cannot afford. We don't have the money. And it also takes away from maintenance and things that need to be done at the other school sites that have that are very old. And it's, you know, we have a responsibility in more ways than one. And I'm also very concerned about charter school encroachment, taking this opportunity to seize Rancho Minerva. And it just puts us in such a bind, and a financial and legal bind that we cannot afford. As such, I will vote no on it. And, you know, I'm a little concerned that we didn't attach these reports from the experts for our new trustees to read and for the public to read. When we're having this discussion, there was no type of analysis based on the experts that gave us these recommendations. And when I talk about experts, I'm talking about Renard Clark and all the professionals who contributed to the evaluation.
I do agree that all those documents should have been released to the community so that they could have seen them.
They have been released. We had meetings after meetings after meetings. They should have been included in this presentation. We have new trustees that don't have the background knowledge or the recommendations from these folks. And it's, how do you put something on the agenda and have no type of presentation, no type of report, not that was created by any staff member in Vista Unified, but by Renald Clark? How is that not attached? How are we having a discussion about a parcel?
If we would have done this process correctly when we were voting on this last year, or was it the year before? If we would have done this process correctly from the get-go, we would not be here. So I understand that, you know, your concerns about that, but where were your concerns when I was voicing concerns back 2 years ago when we were going through this process and I was trying to alert the board about what was the process that was going on. And that's basically, you know, I just read the statement after I kept bringing up that we were not following the best practices from the state of California and the district admitted it. The previous board voted because they trusted the information that they were getting from the district, and now the district is admitting that they lied. I don't know how anybody that voted in favor of that is not furious about that. After it was brought up several times and we were assured that they were following the best practices. So, that's, you know, that's what I have to say. Anybody else have anything to say?
Dr. Dill, did the district attorney ever find that we were not compliant?
That is absolutely false, not accurate. The district never admitted they lied because no lie ever happened.
I just read it where it said that you did not follow best practices. I can go through and I can bring up the videos where I brought up that we were not following the California Board of Education best practices and where we were assured that we were.
We would be more than happy to address that concern. It sounds as though that may be taken out of context. And we would be more than happy, as Trustee Alvarado mentioned, to address many aspects of this topic tonight. However, we did not have an opportunity to prepare for this. Again, we were going to have to address it, but the district did not make any mistake on best practices as it relates to this topic.
It would be great if school members could work with school staff to prepare future presentations that have a significant impact on the education of our children.
We're moving on. Okay, so there's a motion and a second on the floor. All right. I'm gonna call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, all those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Abstain.
Okay.
I don't have enough information.
And it
I'm
just,
sorry.
then it just dies on the table.
Okay. Really? Okay, motion fails for. All right. The next thing is we are going to ratify purchase orders. 8B, ratify purchase orders. So I will entertain a motion to approve the purchase orders.
Second.
No, you need to move.
Oh, so moved.
Now I need a second.
Second.
Thank you.
I have some other to discuss.
Okay, we have, okay, any questions? Trustee Martin, you have
I do. I have a number of questions on the POs.
Dr. Loescher, there's a question.
There are a number of, it looks like replenishing inventory coming from the unrestricted reserves. There's one for almost $34,000 and one for $11,000. What are we replenishing?
I would have to specifically look into each of those in a detailed report to give you an accurate assessment. I can provide that in a Friday letter. These were deemed to be regular routine replenishments of a reserve.
So one of them is for Southwest schools and office supplies. Is it possible that at this time of the year, January, we're buying more furniture?
Well, first, it is possible that we're buying more furniture. This would typically not always come from Southwest schools. That would typically come from Verco. For example, we've had several district purchases of school site furniture. I would have to look into the specifics of those items to give you a detailed report, and would be happy to do so.
And why are we coming out of why is it coming out of the unrestricted reserves?
Well, typically that's where it would have been budgeted from. So items in the strategic planning process are aligned to various budget sources, and then when the purchases are made, they're aligned back to that process that was pre-approved.
And so not out of supplies and materials.
Well, supplies and materials is a subcode of 4303. It's still under the general fund. So under the general fund, you have subcodes for various materials and supplies, and 1,000 staffing, 2,000, 3,000, right? So depending upon where it is, it still would be marked general fund unrestricted. It still might be a discretionary fund, but it still would be subcoded as material supplies.
Okay. The sporting equipment for Rydell All-American Sports, $14,000. We have cut the sport programs by 50% at middle school and high school. Is this to replenish the supplies for the high school athletics and middle school athletics?
Or again, I'd have to look at the specific of the purchase, but for Rydell, it's typically CIF quality high school for items that are purchased out of Rydell. It could be for any number of items, but we'd have to look into the specifics of that.
Okay.
Likely football.
Likely.
Couple more. City of Vista rental lease equipment supplies, $50,000. Is this just an open PO to use their facilities?
City of Vista, I would go back and get you more details on that. This is, it appears to be a business service item that is an open, not to exceed amount that is typical within the course of a school.
Okay. And I'm seeing multiple invoices for Hannah Interpreting Services
Mhm.
contracted. So do we not have enough interpreters in our district? Are we outsourcing?
Well, I couldn't speak to the specific of that item,
We can
but we
speak
have
up.
something.
Yeah, Rachel can address it.
So over the, Hannah.
You don't have to hold it down, Rachel, you're good.
It's hold to me,
Hold it.
hold to me. And
And then
off
push
to
up.
talk.
You can speak.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I reversed the polarity.
You did. So we do have contracted services, and I think it's Hannah, that we actually, when we don't have somebody that speaks the language of Spanish, because we have our own interpreters for Spanish. But for example, I've had meetings with parents that do not, they speak other languages besides that. But we also have services for outside training services. But I believe Hannah is our additional interpretive services that we do not have employees for. Okay. Yeah.
Fiscal crisis management assistant consultants. Do we not have enough employees in our fiscal service department?
Regarding which particular topic?
Fiscal crisis and management assistants?
Sure. So FICMAT Physical Crisis and Management Assistance Team is a state team that is regularly employed by school districts across the state for the purpose of looking at specific items, in this case, ASB and ASB training for the future. The ASB rules, FICMAT rules for ASB changed dramatically over the last year, and we're getting ready to roll out in February an ASB training for all of the schools, which will include the ASB advisors and students. You would engage FICMAT in that training, as that's a high level of expertise on a highly legal subject.
Is this a one-time training? Is it helpful?
So typically you do a one-time training, then you go to an every other year model because you do want to have students involved in that. And typically after about 2 years, again, having run high schools, you run into sort of a knowledge gap within the student body, and you want to make sure to continue to do that and to not just do it with your current ASB advisors, but to build a body of ASB advisors.
Okay. City of Vista, $100,000 contracted. What is this for?
Career technical education, I believe Dr. Doyle would like to give that one.
So that is for internships, and almost all of it is paid to the students. So it's a pass-through to the city. It's actually not to the city, it's to the Chamber of Commerce. And they actually use that money to pay students over the summer with the interns. So it's mostly paid internships.
Summer interns.
Yes.
It's through a restricted funding source through career technical education for that purpose.
Okay. And Big picture learning, computer applications, $20,000 for MGM and 25,000 for Alta Vista. Are we using only computer programs at our alternative high schools?
Well, I think we can get somebody to speak to the specifics of each of those, but to be clear, big picture learning is a learning by doing blanket organization, that's a curriculum organization. So we can provide you more details about that.
That's not the credit recovery. That's not a credit recovery.
No, big picture learning runs a model of learning by doing, which is an internship model in and of itself. So that's a curriculum-based model, not a computer-based model. But one of the courses they run is computer business applications, among others.
Okay, so it does say computer applications, so we're paying $45,000 for software programs for these two.
I would have to get you more information on that, but it is related to those schools, which are big picture schools.
Okay. Educator effectiveness, Orange County Department of Education, $55,000. Is this the GLAD training?
Correct. This was the GLAD training that was approved by the board on June 20th with a subsequent contract issued. We have a presentation on GLAD later this evening. On slide 11 of that presentation, there's an alignment of each of the contracts and items for you to be able to look through, including an amount of $55,000, an amount of $24,000, and an amount of $22,000, all surrounding that. But this is specific to that $55,000 amount that was approved June 20th.
Is Orange County the only one that provides the GLAD training?
For this style of training, because we need to be more specific. GLAD training is provided by different county offices, but in our region, this is for a trainer of trainers model, and we'll cover that in the GLAD presentation, that Orange County is the provider of trainer models.
And San Diego County does not do that.
We will
Can't
be
certify.
They can't certify it. So in order to get a trainer models, they have to be able to certify it. Once you have a trainer that's certified, then we can begin doing.
It's like
that.
AP or IB, the particular certification.
Okay. CCSPP cohort 1 math transformations, contracted services for $95,000.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, we may want to address, Sandra, do you want to come up and address that? Or is your mom going to do it? Okay. Dr. Faust.
You don't have to hold it down.
Thank you. Hi, this is for community schools. So each of the schools have the grant that was given with funding, and so based on their goals, then they can have different kinds of contracts. And so this is one of them that they chose for math to support the students, to also help with our increased scores. Okay.
Just one addition about math transformation. That's actually was the focus of the professional development for all of our elementary schools last Tuesday.
And is this a software program too?
No, pedagogy, training for teachers.
Okay. CCEE, Community Engagement, Vista Unified School Districts, Travel and Conferences. Are we still doing travel and conferences?
So the community engagement initiative actually is reimbursable. So the community engagement initiative is supporting with having students, parents, staff attend different conferences. When they go, it's about collaborating, and it's all reimbursed, other than anything that is funded out could be used. They also have a community engagement initiative extra funding, which is $70,000 of unrestricted funds for the schools for 2 separate years. So they'll be able to incur all the costs without our funds, sorry.
Okay. And lastly, plumbing maintenance contracted out $6,900, $16,000, $38,000. Do we not have plumbers in the district?
We do have 2 plumbers in the districts and 2 maintenance techs that oftentimes assist them. But we also have plumbing services that are outside of the scope of what our plumbers do, including jetting services and other services that are provided to school sites on a regular basis. In addition, we have various emergency services that have to be provided at different hours of the night, and oftentimes beyond the capability of the regular employees to work and maintain a life balance. So we do have additional contracted services for plumbers.
And so are these contracted prices, are these, an open PO in case we need them?
I believe in this case, these are all contractors that have gone through a process for a fair bidding process. And they're all registered with the Department of Industrial Relations as fair bidders. And so in this case, for emergency services, we have certain companies that provide bids quickly. So that way we can assess which of them we will take. And they're considered market value prices for them.
It's kind of like a retainer in the event that there's something happens over the weekend or something happened, and this has happened in our district, something breaks. It's actually Maryland had an issue during the winter break, so that's the purpose of it. Trustee Martin.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have anything else? Okay, seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? There's one I'm abstaining. Okay, so the motion carries with 4 ayes and 1 abstention. Thank you. Isn't it 8?
No, not the students.
Okay. Okay, our students from RBV, you are dismissed. You can get there'll be teachers available to sign you, and I apologize. I thought you guys left at 8 and 9. Yeah, and we can take a quick break. So. 14Q and 14R. You give me a second, because I might have some, you guys might have covered them. Hold on. Okay. I'm gonna be pulling 14Z.
You said 14Z.
Yes. I'll check and make sure I don't have anything. Okay. I think we're good. All right. Okay,
So
so,
let's review real quick.
okay,
I have 13A.
13A, 14B, 14S, 14L, 14Q, 14R, and 14Z.
That's what I,
14A also.
oh, I didn't get
Yeah,
14.
14A is mine also.
Not 13A?
Yeah, 13A.
13A and 14A. Okay, gotcha.
No, I think we got it.
Yeah, okay. All right, okay, so with seeing, no other, and going once, going twice, going last time, okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar. Anybody wanna?
With the
Can
item.
you
With the
restate?
items, oh. Okay, the consent calendar minus items 13A, 14A, 14B, 14S, 14L, 14Q, 14R, and 14Z. Can we get a motion?
So moved.
It's motion moved by trustee Markov, seconded by trustee Martin. Thank you. Seeing any further question or discussion? Seeing no further question or discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, and we will go to item 13A. Next, overnight, USD out of district and overnight travel.
Yes, I have a question on the Monte Vista travel for Principal Carrie Perez and a total of 9 others. This is for the Leader in Me Symposium, for $21,150. The 9 people going with the principal are, I don't recognize these names. Are these students or adults?
They're adults, teachers.
And my question is, why are there so many?
This is one of their goals in terms of character development for students and building the leader in me. And so this is something that it's specifically tailored to growing students. And in terms of it, we would need for the teachers and the administrators to attend the conference to learn more. It's a conference that is held annually to be able to gain updates in terms of the leader in me, and it's something specific for student growth. And so this is the amount that we're asking for.
And it requires these additional 9 people.
Yes, so it's a mix of our teachers. It includes not only our general education teachers, but also special education teachers.
But just to be clear, there's no requirement for the number of teachers. It's just something they choose to do and they've included it in their single plan for student achievement.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Are any of these teachers taking early retirement?
I do not have that information.
We would not be able to say that.
We can't see that in public, but we can look.
Okay. Could you look at that?
Yes.
Okay, and I have one, for, this is not really a big deal, but it kind of is, I mean, ish. So in the EE&I department, out of district, for the Canva Create
Yes.
Lab,
Yes.
they can participate in that for free via online, unless there's something going on at the actual, event. Is there a reason why they have to go to that event and they can't participate online? It's actually free. There's no registration fees or anything. There would be no travel fee or anything.
So specifically for the 2 team members that are asking, they are the ones that do a lot of lead work within our district for the ed tech. And they also help to develop a lot of our online platforms. And so in terms of having the online, going in person, you're correct. If there's an online version, it's shorter, it's not as personal in terms of follow-up connections, because sometimes when attending these type of conferences, we learn and connect with other people that can give us access or updates on any other information as it relates to the platform that we're using.
Okay, thank you. Not convinced, but I'll go along with it. It's only $750.
Could I just ask,
Yeah.
the Leader in Me program,
Yes.
we've had that in this district for a while, haven't we?
Yes, we have. The Leadership Academy also hosts events, and included is the Leader in Me.
And and so the 9 teachers, are they from other schools?
Oh, no, it's specific for Monte Vista.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. Oh, thank you. That is great.
Yes.
Okay, pretty good.
With that, Sandra, you've been a principal at elementary. Can you give us a 2-minute overview about that so that my colleague here knows what it's
You're
about?
referring to the Leader in Me program.
Sure, I was thinking as you were talking. It is likely, so Leader in Me requires that there is what's called a lighthouse team, and they're the ones that help to design what they're gonna do and set their goals each year. It's highly likely that Principal Perez has selected her lighthouse team as the members to go. When they go to the conference, there's general sessions and they have breakout sessions so that then each one has the information to bring back to the school. So that's likely why, that was my experience in that situation. So that's likely what they're planning on.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anything else from, that, was it the 13th? Yeah, anybody else have anything else? Okay, seeing no further discussion, I will, ask for a motion to approve item 13A.
So moved.
A second?
Okay, moved by trustee, Martin and seconded by trustee Marco. If there's no further questions or discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, the next one is item 14.
14A, contract number 3 and number 5, I have 2 questions. The educator effectiveness, again, this is Orange County Department of Ed. And this is the GLAD training for $46,000.
Yes. I actually have that on my list too. I have some, I have questions because this is $46,000. I have seen the contracts for that and I can see the 24,000, but I don't see the 22,000. I know that you're gonna cover that in another, in the presentation. I don't know if you would, do you want to just wait to cover that in the
I can
presentation?
explain it now.
I can do a brief overview now, but you'll get a visual of it, and I think the visual is pretty powerful.
Yeah.
This is my opinion. Let's go just a minute, because there's a few things here, and I'm gonna be extraordinarily brief, so if I'm not going to detail, please, ask many questions. In December of 2023, there was an item for professional development that was passed for the board. It was passed and it was implemented. The total commitment amount of that the board committed to at that time was about $50,000+, separate from the $55,000 we've been talking about. Okay. However, what didn't occur due to a number of things that have been looked into is subsequent to that, typically you issue a contract request. And that didn't occur. So the action of going and taking part in the trainer of trainers was approved. In fact, it was approved, it was discussed in the December 2023 meeting, and it was voted upon. So the whole activity was in fact approved. Now what we have is a little bit of a legal thing, which is a contract. Separately, in the LCAP, there was a $55,000 item that was approved, which was approved on June 20th, which you've already approved, for the same similar services. Now delivered differently, some are delivered to administrators, some to teachers, but it's the same contract. So now there's a contract in place. Now, we weren't aware that there had been a contract process error until November 17th, after the last board meeting. We were contacted by the Orange County Department of Education. Specifically, they contacted the teachers and said, we never were paid for your training that you came to. They had completed that
And that training took place when?
in June.
That was, I'm sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt. That was the 24,000, right?
That's the 24,000. 3 people at $8,000 for the training was $24,000. That occurred separately. It was approved, but occurred. But because there's already a contract in place, you put an addendum on a current contract because you're currently contracted for those services. Now, there's additional things left to happen as part of that for an additional 22,000. It's within the scope of the contract that's already in place. It's the same services, it's coaching services and other part of the certification process. But in fact, what you have here is a fairly unusual situation that I can understand why it's confusing. You have a $55,000 contract that was approved. You have $24,000 that has been expensed. It was done. That is technically a ratification legally that you would add on the 55,000 plus the 24, you get to 79,000, plus an additional $22,000 over the top of that are services yet to be rendered, but we did commit to. So it's actually in total amount, 101,000 in total that is now on that contracted service. So it's all in process. And what slide 11 does later is it lays it out in order for you to be able to see how the 3 connect, because they're all within one blocking of those trainer of trainer services.
Okay, I don't know what the services that are yet to be rendered. The ones I saw were on a contract for 198,000 that we have not yet.
That's a separate item altogether.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that's a separate item altogether. So the trainer part of it is after you complete the training, you have ongoing coaching and services that will be discussed later by EE&I as part of their presentation that will describe the services being rendered for that 22,000.
Okay, but at this point, for me personally, I can't see approving the full 22,000. Maybe we could revisit it when we do the presentation. But right now for this one, I can only see, because I've only seen 24,000, that I can like kind of get my head around that it's 24,000. I would say I would move that, I would be willing to approve the 24,000 at this point. Maybe we could revisit it on the presentation and approve the additional 22 then. But for me, that's what I would be moving for. Any other questions?
Just so the board has information about the 22,000 you're referencing, those are services that have not been rendered yet, so we can absolutely bring that back as a separate item.
And we might be able to approve it tonight. I have
wanted
not
you to
seen
know
the
that you have an
paperwork.
option here. You don't.
So I kind of, for me, it's like I need to see the paperwork. There's one more item on 14A.
Okay.
Soil and health. So it says the
What item?
contract increase, it's item number 5, sorry.
Okay.
Item number 5, the contract increases $500,000 to a total contract of $730,000. I'm assuming that's for SLPs?
We're gonna go ahead and have
Yeah, that's
Ms.
special.
Gutierrez.
Okay, thanks.
So Soland is an outside agency that we contract with for not only SLPAs, which are the assistants, but also for any one-to-one aides. And so these are specific services that are federally and state mandated. And so we need to be able to contract if we're not able to fill those positions within the district.
I understand, and I get that they're necessary, but I have to wonder if we paid our people more money, if we couldn't attract more people and not have to outsource these jobs. So I know that's just an aside, but, so, that seems like $700,000 is a lot of money. All right, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so, I'm gonna go ahead and move that we approve, item 14A with the change of, that 46, that only approving 24,000 of that 46,000 for line number 3 for the GLAD training project.
So moved.
No, you have second.
Oh,
Sorry.
second.
Thank you. Is there any other questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And then the next one was 14B. Yeah, yes, that is yours.
This is just a quick question on the payroll revolving cash. I'm noticing figures in there, 1,500, 3,200. Are we having missing paychecks? What is that all about?
We're gonna have Ms. Machado answer. She's our executive director of fiscal services.
I can speak to that. Our December payroll is a very short payroll cycle, and sometimes we cannot factor all the time sheets. This is to ensure that employees do get paid. So if there is sometimes an increase of revolving cash for December and January, beginning January.
And this is hourly.
Our work that we couldn't capture during the payroll cycle, yeah. Payroll cycle in December is normally 5 to 9 days, so it's very short.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so I will entertain a motion to approve item 14B.
So me,
Second.
Okay, moved by trustee Martin, seconded by trustee Marco. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any, all those, any abstentions? No. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Sorry that you have a baby here. That is just the cutest thing.
Good save, dad save.
good.
Okay, next item is, if I can read my own writing, 14S. Think who, was that
That's
you?
point of order. What about 14L?
14L? 14L.
Trustee Markov.
Oh,
Hold
I
back.
apologize. You're right. 14L, we'll go in order. 14L, sorry. Okay, trustee Markov, would you like to speak to that? Why you pulled that?
Sure, I think that, I had a question about, this is, on my screen here in red, number 6. The line, it says imply endorsement of any business or product or unduly commercialize or politicize the school environment. And I seem to recall that, well, first of all, I'd like clarification exactly what that means about unduly commercialize. And like, for instance, I recall when my kid was at Leadership Academy, they were Apple distinguished. Is that, you know what I mean? Is that something that we do, not do? Is this a change in policy?
Thank you very much, trustee Markov. Forgive me, I'm flipping the mic over so that I don't have to hold it down because my finger slips off and then it sounds like I'm slapping the microphone. So the legal language here, and we can certainly get legal, so these are all drafted by lawyers according to current ed code, just so that way we can be clear. So much of the language is legal language. There's a couple of things in implied gifts. What we want to make sure is that when the board accepts a gift, it doesn't imply that we're going to somehow, the term commercialize is publicize it in a way that's intended to sell product of some kind directly. So it would be appropriate to name a company, for example, HP, but not say that the HP recipient is something that endorses HP 1520 printers of this kind, and that we now endorse them, we recommend them as a district. So we don't make endorsements or recommendations, but we're entitled to accept those items. Also, we don't accept things as a nature of the matter of boards endorsing a political position or party. So that's what the intention of that language seems to be.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
No further question.
No further questions? Okay, would you like to make the motion?
I'd like to make the motion to approve
Okay,
item 14.
okay. So moved, any, need a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by trustee Markov, second moved by trustee Alvarado. And if there's no further questions or discussion, I will call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Now the next one is 14Q. I think, is that another trustee Markov one?
Oh, yeah, there is.
Would you like to speak to it?
Yes, I'm pulling it up.
Okay. Take your time.
So, I had a question on this one, this basically covers, student use of technology. And, my question, was that I read it in here, I don't see it specifically, but it was talking about, parent consent. How is that collected on, or will be collected, for this?
Acceptable use.
So we have an acceptable use policy. It's typically part of the student handbook and parents have to sign it and it's collected at the beginning of each school year.
And what if they don't sign it? What does that imply? Or what, how do you deal with that? What's the ramification?
So at the beginning of every year, students are given technology laptops and things like that. So that's part of it. So likely there would be some kind of a conversation with the parent to try to find out where's the obstacle, how may we work around it? So we would work with parents to try to better understand their concern and try to meet their needs. I can't remember any time when we weren't able to get past that if there was an issue with the parent.
Okay.
Typically, teachers are quite good at this. They'll work with the parent. They'll talk about why we have these acceptable uses and how it keeps them safe. But that would be our answer. Okay, we would do it on a one-to-one basis based on the needs of the individual parent and those students.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question as well. So, in terms of parents signing it, it's an online portal when they register their students, or is it a physical book?
Well, it depends. There are many parents who can't access the online portal, so we do get the physical signature, but many of them are online. So it's really, again, up to them, and we go through the liaisons on that.
And then, my last question is there, a technology class given by their teacher or someone at the school site reiterating what the acceptable use policy is for each student as a reminder?
There's a process that all schools go through. Obviously, it's different based on the age of the child and the grade span, but there's a process that students go through. I can't say, and I don't want to give you the wrong information, I can't say that there's an actual sit down about the acceptable use with the students, other than going over the student handbook, because it's in the student handbook.
I think with the increase of students posting things and especially inappropriate things, altercations, that it might be worth some kind of to reinforce what our expectations are. I just think it might mitigate some of those issues that we've had, especially in middle school.
So we do have a digital citizenship curriculum. And so our students do go through that. And again, age appropriate by grade span, we go through that and have those conversations. And those topics are covered during it. But at the beginning of the year, the acceptable use is part of the handbook by each grade level.
I think trustee Alvarado brings up some good points, and maybe we might want to
Yeah.
consider having this as a topic would you want to have this as a topic to discuss further?
We would love to come and talk with you guys about it because it is complex at this point, especially with AI.
I think with the times changing,
Mhm.
in terms of how AI is here to stay, whether we like it or not. And also with some of the schools implementing or piloting the no cell phone use, it might be worth a discussion. I think it would serve to educate our families and our students and even maybe some of our staff on AI. So yeah, I wouldn't mind.
We'll prepare something and we'll run it by you in the Friday letter. And if you like it, we'll bring it back to the board for a presentation. We very much enjoy showing you what we actually have a technology advisory group made up of teachers across all grade span. They've worked very hard and they would love to be able to bring you up to speed on that.
Thank you. And does someone want to make a motion to approve item, what are we at, 14R, 14Q?
I'd like to make a motion to approve 14Q.
Second,
Okay, moved by trustee Markov, seconded by trustee Alvarado. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nays, there's abstentions. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving on, where's my list? 14R. Sorry, okay, so, was that another trustee Markov?
That's a meeting.
Okay, feel free to speak to that whenever
Okay.
you're ready.
All right, this is a question of how the second sentence, or I guess it's the second paragraph, that's a single sentence. And I was trying to understand what you mean by the board shall approve the price and terms of any sale or lease of personal property of the district.
So this actually happens at nearly every board meeting. You've done it tonight on consent. And that is that we present you with the items for obsolescence. So this actually occurred during this consent item, and we list them all out for you. They're listed on the board item with the items that are obsolete. And if we believe that they have any value, sometimes the value can be dollar wise, sometimes it can be trade in kind service.
Okay, I think that my question centers around the word personal property. And I don't know does the district have personal, like, so it's the fourth word to the end of the sentence. I just was trying to place that in context.
I would happy to get you a lingo rendering of that and put that in a Friday letter for you. Lawyers are pretty specific to cover broad things, but I can get you a legal rendering on that particular one.
Is it possible that could mean personal property of employees?
It should not mean personal property of employees. It would mean the district property.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, so part of, I guess what I was wondering was it supposed to be personnel or was it personal? You know, that's why I'm just asking about it.
That's fair. We'll get you a legal ruling on that.
Do we wanna hold off on approving it to get that, or are you ready to approve?
Is this the first or second reading?
This one's the second reading.
Okay, so that's a good question. The second reading.
Yeah. Do you wanna hold off on approving it right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Bring it back
does
to you.
anybody have a problem with that? Okay, so then we will, abstain from approving that, and, we will bring that back to the following meeting. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
14S,
This is a second reading regarding sale and lease of district-owned real property. As I'm reading through it, the second paragraph, last sentence, the board may elect not to appoint a district advisory committee for any of the following: rental of property for a time of not to exceed 30 days, a lease or rental of surplus property to a private educational institution for the purpose of offering summer school, the sale and lease or rental of surplus property to be used for teacher or other employee housing until July 1st, 2024, a sale or lease of surplus property that has not previously been operated, etc. Why are we eliminating those from having a district advisory committee?
Well, that's government code and education code, and it's simply stating what the law already states. So that's where the language comes from. These are baseline legal support items. So it's already called out within government and education code that those are the 4 items.
So without input from the community, this board could just go ahead and sell district-owned property.
That is the law.
Okay.
I think the key term there is may, not shall.
Yeah, again, it reserves the board's right that they may. That is what the law states, not that it has to, that it can elect it.
so the board could actually,
Correct.
do a district advisory committee.
That is why they use the word may and not shall.
That's correct.
Further down, under use of proceeds, it says in the third paragraph that these funds can be used for maintenance or renovation of school sites or in the district's general fund. So if we sell property, we can just throw it into the general fund.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Did you want to approve this? No? Does anybody want to approve this?
it's. If you look underneath the state, it has all the ed code. it has government code, it has the California Department, this is all.
Are you making a motion?
Well, I think we're talking about it, I guess. I think that, as I understand it,
Like to push.
oh, as I understand this, this is already law, so it doesn't need our approval. I don't, it's a little, this is kind of gray to me in terms of.
Would you like me to clarify?
I was,
It's up to you.
okay, my understanding is that this is board policies. So what it's doing is codifying into board policy what is already ed code, so that we are accepting it.
Okay.
Typically, and again, this is for newer board members, typically boards go through updates to their policy because laws and regulations change.
Yeah.
So this is standard operating procedure for us to ensure that the board policies over time are adjusted to meet the changing regulations at the state or federal level.
Does someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve 14S.
Second, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion from trustee Alvarado, seconded by trustee Vargas. Is there any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
And abstain. Okay, so we have motion carries three ayes, and two abstentions. Thank you.
You abstain?
It was trustee Markov and trustee Martin. Okay. Okay, oh, and, okay, so the next one is 14Z. I actually asked the question, no, don't worry. It was a question I asked earlier, I got clarified, I forgot, it was in my papers, it kind of got mixed in there. So I will make a motion that we approve 14Z. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions, discussions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. It is almost 8 o'clock. And so I believe our student board members will be released, but before you go, I wanted to know if any of you have any feedback. Do you have any thoughts or anything about tonight's meeting, what you've heard so far? Anybody care to say anything? It really helps us if we hear back from you guys too. Okay.
We can chat with them off the dais. If you'd
Yeah.
like me to bring some feedback, we can meet them and get you some
Yeah.
feedback. So you're
Okay.
probably more comfortable when you're off the dais, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and release them 3 minutes early if that's okay. It's a perfect time.
Tell the teachers.
Yes, don't tell the teachers, yeah, 3 minutes, have a blast, go do something fun for those 3 minutes. Anyway, you are released, thank you so much, it's such a pleasure to always see you guys, thank you. Okay, and then, okay, so now we are moving on. Oh my gosh. Oh, yes, board business, we are on to board business, and so.
I gotta get my stuff.
Okay. So item 15A. I brought this back because I completely, was my mistake. I thought I had understood something about the law about the December meeting that trustee Markov said that he was gonna have trouble making that meeting. So, and I was incorrect about my assumption, so I have since gotten the correct information. So I'm hoping that we can accommodate our trustee on that meeting and do it for another day. I believe the meeting was December 16th.
The only thing that we would request your consideration is that that also is the meeting that we provide the first interim budget report. So if you could consider the second week of December, the more time we have to prepare that for you, the more accurate the budget report will be.
Does anyone have a problem with December 11th? That's a Thursday.
This is for a workshop.
No, this is a regular scheduled meeting. And then Chris, are you listening? Because I need you to check the master calendar.
Yeah.
They're talking about December 11th.
Does that work?
Yeah, for me it does, yeah.
So we're just double checking to
See,
make
that
sure
works.
there's no major.
Martha, does that work for you?
Yes.
Cipriano, does that work for you?
Give me, wait a second.
Sure. Take your time.
Yep, works for mine.
Okay, great, then,
We're good on district side.
do we need a motion for that, or?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
you need to amend, the board meeting dates for 25-26.
Okay, so I move that we amend the
Or, I'm
board,
sorry, for 2025.
I move that we amend the meeting dates for 2025 to change the December 16th meeting to December 11.
Second,
Okay, and is there any further discussion? Okay, we're seeing that, I'll call for the vote, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So the motion carries, aye, motion carries unanimously, thank you.
Okay, we got that taken.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna have Dr. Doyle present this next one.
So, we're on 14B.
Uh-huh.
15B. Sorry, 15B. So every year, we make sure, we make available the principals. Great opportunity for the board members to get to know the principals and talk specifically about student achievement. They are eager to meet with you, but we do need to set a date. So the purpose of this conversation is for you to give us some feedback on whether or not you would like us to set a separate date. I can tell you in years past that it seems to be most effective when we separate the secondary from the elementary, only because there's just too many of them. So what's on the table tonight is a discussion with board members about how you would like us to go about scheduling a workshop. It would be a special workshop to meet with the principals to talk about student achievement.
About what time of year does this take place?
We're in the window. January, February is typically when we do it.
Anybody wanna have some thoughts?
We already have an additional workshop this month. Do we have an additional workshop next month?
In February, you only have one. February 6th is your regular board meeting.
And we're going to need 2 workshops, one for elementary, one for secondary.
There's a couple approaches we've used in the past. The one I seem to like is the workshop in the same day. You just have a 2-hour workshop for elementary, a break, a dinner, and then a 2-hour workshop same day in the later that evening with secondary, or vice versa.
That model works for me. If anybody else has any comment?
I like that. For me, though, I will be, I cannot make. I can't, I'm assuming it would be on a Thursday, so I cannot make the 13th. I
It could
can't,
be any day of the week, whatever you
Okay,
like.
I can't make-
Except Monday.
well, I'm not available from the 11th to the 18th, 19th, I can get close as soon as I can. So other than that, February I can make work.
What about the 10th?
It can't be on a Monday.
Why not?
Can't be on a Monday because we have an agreement with the Vista Teachers Association not to interfere with their meetings.
Can we politely ask?
We could ask, but
but
we typically don't do that. We've been very respectful of that day.
What about the 20th?
That-
The
that works.
20th,
The what?
the 20th of February, is that correct?
Yeah,
It's a Thursday.
that works.
Check the calendar. Oh, you're not available as you were.
What about the 19th?
19th is fine.
Actually, I may have spoken too soon. I'll be coming back from the East Coast, so I might be a little tired.
We can get you some coffee.
Then I won't sleep. No, actually, the 19th could work. Or what about,
25th, 26th, 27th, that next week?
all that works.
Last week.
26 is PD day.
So 26th, not such a good day for us, for principals.
Okay.
Yeah, if my staff can be looking at these things, like,
We're looking at it.
so 26 is off the table.
Okay.
25th.
25th works for me. Does it work?
Yep.
Okay,
So my team, 25th.
okay.
So where would you like to start? We've done it a variety of approaches, but because you're gonna have a twofer, perhaps maybe like an earlier start, like 3 to 5, and then dinner, and then 6 to 9, or 6 to 8.
I can't make it at 3. My job.
Yeah. Some
I know you're
people
superintendent.
have to work.
I can make it at 4.
4, okay?
I can make it at
So
4.
4 to 6,
Yeah.
and then 6 to 7 dinner, and then 7 to 8, 7 to 9.
Working dinner.
Yeah, we could do a working dinner. We've done that before.
Okay. I think that sounds.
Is everyone comfortable with 4?
Mike?
well, generally I have to get my kid at 3:30 from school and get him back to the house. I might be a little late. Is that okay?
I
You
think,
want to do a 4:30?
yeah, 4:30, would 4:30 work?
4:30
Okay,
work?
I think that,
Okay.
let's do
So
4:30.
Feb 25th. 4:30.
Yes.
And then we will put in the Friday letter a post schedule of how to make it happen. We're gonna do a 2x2 where you'll do the 2 meetings in 1 meeting, elementary, then break, and working dinner with secondary. Is everyone comfortable with secondary being second? Okay, moving on.
Awesome. Okay, now we are going to, board member committee assignments. Okay,
So you should have your list. If you don't, I can bring it up.
yeah,
It's in the packets.
Yeah, I can bring it up too. Just give me a second. I gotta get to it.
is it possible to get a printout?
Do we have extra papers? We can just run and make a copy for you if you need one. It's in your board packet.
I know, but
But I'm gonna put it on the screen too.
Okay.
Just give me a moment, guys. We're gonna make you a copy too. So what we've attempted to do here, before you begin, is if you look at the committee assignments, obviously left to right, the name of the committee. The purpose of this is for us to have a representative from the board. We call them liaisons, so you're in a liaison capacity because you're only supposed to be listening and bringing feedback, not participating. And then if you look to the middle, that's the name of the liaison. Sometimes we have two. The reason we have two isn't that we want two to go at the same time. It's probably better only to have one, but it's nice to have a backup in the event that someone can't make it. And then over to the right, and again, this is where we're getting it to the best of our ability, giving you the dates that we currently have. So many of these committees will wrap into next year, so we may not have the exact dates for the fall of next year. And there may be a committee that is not on here that you may choose to add, and we can do that as well. So there's really two steps that need to be taken. The first step is have an agreement about which board member is going to be a liaison for which committee. And the second step would be if you choose to add a committee, we can do that as well, but we need to do them both.
Matt, the dates on this are last year's dates.
Some are,
Yeah.
so because they're wrapping, that's what I meant. So
Okay.
we can only get you what we have available to us now because the committee themselves set the dates. So we gave you what we have at this point. I would say, look, even if they were last year, look, because they're likely will be very similar for next year as it wraps into next year. Here comes a paper copy.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris.
Anything else? Good.
I'm looking at it here, but then I can look at my calendar.
Easier.
That's kind of thing you.
How do we want to do this?
And again, it doesn't all have to happen today. We typically do it at the beginning of the year, so everyone knows, but I don't want you to feel super pressured. It'd be great to get started, and if you feel like you need more time, we can finish it at the next board meeting.
Well, I think given that we don't have like hard dates for like the second half of the year, maybe we could just, we might want to think about revisiting over the summer. Does that make sense?
No, we have our dates until the end of this year. If you look, they just wrap into next year. These committees typically start July 1 and end June 30th.
I got you. Thank you. Okay, so,
What is the format? Do we just say what committees we'd like to be on?
okay, so why don't we start with, Martha?
Yeah, I'd like to continue on the community schools committee, coalition, I should say. And also the dual language immersion steering committee. Since there's a spot now. And yeah, continue the same ones that I was appointed to or that I was on last time.
So there would be two more then. It's on the backside.
Project labor agreement, which still, Bobier is still, being constructed under the CLA contract.
And then the superintendent's council, we have you there as well.
Yeah,
Oh, no, that's me. I'm
You
superintendent.
can have two.
Okay.
You just,
The superintendent.
that's what we have to. You're innovative learning. You're innovative learning.
Oh, gotcha.
We're about the two councils.
Oh, I got you.
She's with equity.
although I don't know if I can make March 27th, so maybe I shouldn't say that. Sorry.
You could also always have two, like I mentioned
Yeah.
before, so if there's a date that one can't go, another could go.
Yeah.
Can I raise my hand for the arts and music?
Please do, one of my favorites.
Cipriano, is there?
Yeah, I mean, I like to keep the one that I have.
Yeah.
The CSBA one, let's keep it blank because it's up for election, so. Once that happens, we'll know whether the candidates are serving, if any.
So what I'm hearing is we will leave it on this page, but we will not put a trustee name on it for now.
Correct.
So I want to make sure I'm understanding it, okay? Chris, you're doing it with me, right? So you're
Yes.
double checking me?
Yes. Okay. Mike, were there any others?
What is the calendar committee?
Oh, that's a joy. So, Rachel, could you come up and talk about this? Actually, it is a joy this year because of one day. Rachel, maybe you can tell them today. I've had more people thank me for the calendar this year for one day. Tell them.
Are you talking about the president's weekend?
No, I'm
day?
talking about the day after.
Oh, Halloween.
Wow.
All about that because I have received like 50 compliments
Yeah.
because of that day.
So the contract committee is a compliant. Oh my gosh,
The calendar.
what time is it? I don't know, it is. So the calendar committee is part of the VTA contract that we have a group come together of district representatives, VTA members. CSEA is a part of this committee, and teachers, and so they come together and they make recommendations to the board on the calendar 3 years out. So this year, they made a recommendation, Friday after Halloween was a non-student day. And that's the favorite day.
Very popular.
So coming at, so they look at all the, the little details of the calendar. They work, high school is here, so they can make sure they go with finals. And so all of those dates are very thoughtful. And then the board ultimately approves that.
Okay.
It's fun.
Just tell me how many times they meet. They don't meet that often. 3 times maybe?
How do you go, Sandra? We have one coming up.
We've had 2 meetings this year. We
Yeah.
have 1 more coming up.
Okay.
And that's it for the year.
2 to 3 times a year. And sometimes they might call one together quickly because they need to make a change based on a need, but
I'll put my name in that one too, if that's okay.
I would like to be on DLAC. I would also like to be in dual language immersion. And I would like to propose, that there be a board member in the bargaining, on the bargaining, sessions, and I would like to do that.
Do we need a motion for that?
I think if we could do that after we finish with let's do this in 2 steps.
Okay.
So we'll get that, let's go back to the DLI because now we
Yeah.
have 3 people there, so we clearly cannot have 3 people. Well, we have Cipriano, Martha, and now you indicated.
All right.
I'm happy to step down.
No, let's step down. That's
No,
fine.
it's definitely a busy one, but I'm like, if you're
No,
wanting to learn,
I
because
think
I've
it'd be
already
great,
been on it.
as long as there's only 2. That's my only point.
Did you want to continue with it?
I'm not happy to step down.
Okay, I'll take it.
We have Sue and Martha.
Are there any others, Sue?
I'm hoping for the bargaining.
No bargaining, okay.
We'll get to that.
But,
I was just gonna say I could jump into the magnet schools.
Okay, great.
and then since I took one off, I'll add one is appropriate, the Community School Coalition.
Okay. Yeah, we only have 1, so that would be Martha and then Cipriano. Making a lot of progress here, we're almost finished.
Keith, what is, Sue, was there anyone?
Not at this point, I'm waiting to see.
So the P3 focus group, is that our construction one?
No, that's early education.
Never, was
TK.
never even,
Preschool TK,
I was never even aware that I was like, that there were meetings, but
we would love to have you, they're
I
very
would love
fun.
to stay. I would love to stay on there. I did not know about those, so
We'll
I
make
didn't even
sure.
realize I was on that. I love the Superintendent's Council for Innovative Learning. You'd have to
Yes,
pry me
that's
away
awesome.
from that. I would not do that.
Well, you've been very good about attending, thank
I
you.
love it. I love it. Climate Action Committee, I love too, but unfortunately, a lot of those dates fall when I have baseball games, so fortunately, trustee Vargas has carried the slack on that one.
You want to
But
continue there?
I
Cipriano?
would,
Mr. Brown, you want to continue in that?
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd like to stay on it. It's just that I can't go that
We'll leave it
often. So if you're okay with that, since we don't know, I'd like to have somebody else that, okay. And then the construction liaison, I'd like to stay on that one. DPAC, I haven't gone to too many of those. If anybody else wants to take that one on.
We'll take Deepa.
Okay, so Sue will take that. Yeah, I think we're good.
You want me to read them back? Make sure we're all on the
Who's,
same page?
who's on the superintendent council of equity and anti-racism?
Martha?
I don't think I can make March 27th, but
If we could get a backup, that would be great.
Let me check my calendar.
You can make the others though?
I have maybe others,
I think there's
I
two
don't
more.
think there's, and they're not on here.
but that's the last one for the
So
year.
there's two more. There's
I
January
can make
21st and
that
March.
March 27th.
Serena, we'll put you there.
Yeah,
One's coming up and then one's in March. You ready for me to read them back to you?
yeah.
Ready? Okay, here we go. Chris, check my notes. So I'm at the very top, arts and music is, trustee Marco. Calendar committee, trustee Marco. Climate action committee, trustee Vargas. Community school coalition, trustee Alvarado and trustee Vargas. A construction liaison, trustee Morocco. CSBA blank. DLAC, trustee Martin. DPAC, trustee Martin. DLI, trustee Alvarado and trustee Martin. Last one on this page, magnet school, trustee Markov. Next page, P3 focus group, trustee Morocco. We'll make sure you get that information. PLA, trustee Alvarado and trustee Vargas. Superintendent's Council for Innovative Learning, that's the council with our student representatives, just for our new board member, trustee Morocco. Superintendent Council for Equity and Anti-Racism, that's a combination of students and staff and parents. And that's trustee Alvarado and trustee Morocco.
Well, I'm only gonna be doing the one on March
Okay.
27th.
I just have a note there.
So, yeah.
All right, so if we can have an agreement of that, and then we'll get to the second item that trustee Martin wants to talk about. We just need a quick vote on this, so this becomes official,
Okay, so we need a motion to approve
the existing.
the existing committees.
I motion to approve the existing committees.
Second,
Okay, so moved by trustee Markov, seconded by trustee Alvarado. Is there any further questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously.
On to the second component of it.
Okay, so now we're gonna have a discussion about having a board liaison to the bargaining committee. Okay,
This is when you would make a motion.
yeah,
I'd like to make a motion that we have a board member sitting in on the bargaining sessions for CSEA and VTA.
I second. Okay, would you like to speak to the motion, Nick?
I would be happy to be that board member sitting in on the bargaining for CSEA and VTA.
Okay, anybody, any other feedback?
Just the comment, if appropriate, just making sure that, the bargaining units are comfortable with that.
So then the motion would be to approve a liaison for the bargaining committee with the understanding that both bargaining units would be amenable to that.
Would you be willing to amend your motion to that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I would like to I would like to propose that perhaps we have a member and like a alternate, and I would like to be the alternate. So if that's okay?
So you'd have to amend the motion then, so we're clear on the record.
Okay,
Since there's two amendments that you would have to make in your motion.
do you want to restate?
We can restate the motion.
You wanna restate the
Martin
motion?
wants to restate it. We just have to make sure it's clear.
I don't remember all the additions.
Okay. So the motion would be to add a board liaison and an alternate to the bargaining group, pending contingent upon the bargaining group's approval of that.
And with an alternate.
When I said a member and an alternate. Okay, is that, all right, No, I just want to make sure, are you okay with that wording? Okay, now you can second.
Second,
Okay, so it was moved by trustee Martin, seconded by trustee Markov. Any further discussion?
Yes, I wanted to just state that it was communicated to me at a CSBA conference that this is not good practice to have a sitting board member sitting on negotiations. And so as such, you know, I trust the advice of these attorneys that have gone through many who work with many school districts and probably have to litigate things. So I will be voting no on it.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries, with four, ayes and one nay. Thank you. Okay,
Just clarification for me, again, we just want to make sure that we're implementing the will of the board. That vote included trustee Martin as the representative and trustee Morocco as the alternate. Is there agreement with the board on this?
yes,
Want the minutes to reflect that?
Yeah,
sure.
everybody? Okay. All right, now, 15D, discuss public posting of staff responses to questions posed by board members during board meetings, okay? Dr. Locher, this is your baby.
Might be.
Well, yeah,
Actually,
it's,
trustee Martin.
yes, it is trustee Martin's baby.
So we want.
You're delivering it.
Well, so we wanted to get back on. I'm not,
Good lady, good lady.
It's okay, Sean.
we're not that type of
No,
doctor.
we're not.
Different
Not
type
that
of
kind
doctor.
of-
Not our field of expertise. All right. So trustee Martin had asked for information about how various places execute this particular practice. The question was, is there a way that when board members make requests for information during a meeting that can be shared with the public? Can it be shared? And how might that be done? And we actually have two particular models that represent practices that are available. Some of these are actually practices within the district for various committees that exist. So we just want to present to you these items, so you have a discussion point, so the board can come to a consensus on how they would like us to proceed. So the first way to go about this is clearly you can post it to a common place on a website. And a common place on the website can exist where some of these items can go. And that would be, again, for anything that can be shared publicly. Sometimes when questions are asked, other questions cannot be, those items can't all be discussed in public at first, right? So that's one particular model. A second model that's in place, and trustee Morocco or President Morocco, you'd be well acquainted with this, actually comes from various meetings. And when we're in construction meetings, there's something called a request for information, which is something that we translate to various committees. It's called committee members for request. In this case, it would be board member information request. And actually, in those cases, if it's the CBOC and various other committees, what we do is we take those, we actually officially respond to them at the next board meeting. Or two down the line, or we advise them of the open request for information of those are closed, and we post the information as part of that. And the advantage of doing that is it's located within the agenda, and the public doesn't have to look for it in different places. So it's already then re-embedded back into the board agenda. So those are two particular models that can be put into place fairly seamlessly and are usable models where the public can have access to the information.
I prefer the first model, and if we could put that on the website in the area where you would find board meeting agendas and the board meetings, add another tab that, and title it just so that they know these are answers to questions that were asked in a public meeting.
This is where trustee Martin is referring right here. I anticipate you would ask that this is where we would put it, right here.
Yeah.
Because that's where it's, so it'd likely sit somewhere here or right here. Go ahead.
Yeah, just to clarify, so the board meeting agendas are in board docs, but we're saying put it on the Vista Unified website in the area where you link over to board docs.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understood correctly.
Well, actually, no, it would be in the board docs.
Okay, so this is a good conversation, so just allow me to get some feedback on this. So, and again, I'm happy either way. If you were to put it on the website I'm showing you now, it would be fewer clicks. If you put it in board docs, there would be more clicks. So it's just deeper, it would be embedded deeper in it. Because you would have to click on the actual board meeting where the question was.
I understand. Okay,
So it could get lost, is my
Yes.
point.
It could get lost, but I know board docs also has the presentation, so it may be beneficial to the public.
Yeah.
That the questions go with the presentation so that they're not as lost. They may still be lost, but. It makes it off.
I agree with trustee Vargas.
Yeah, this is, again, I'm just thinking through some like legality aspects of it. So remember, it could not be included in the minutes because that information wasn't available during that particular meeting. So we could likely figure out a way to do that, but we do have to follow the legality of it is. And the answer didn't exist during that particular board meeting. That's the one I would have to think through.
Trustee Vargas, what you're suggesting, would that delay the response until the new board doc is then uploaded 30 days later?
It depends how quickly staff can do it. I would assume it'd take, a couple of days to like get the documents.
Every question would be different. So I wish I could give you an answer. Sometimes our answers we can get the next day, almost always. Sometimes it takes us a couple of weeks. It depends on the question.
What about under, library? If there's a library tab under board docs?
There isn't.
There
Yeah,
is-
there is.
There is on the far right-hand side of board docs. It generally has general information, event, strategic goals, and board member information.
We can make that happen. It's just more clicks is my point.
Whatever the easiest and fastest for the community members to find is what I'm hoping to achieve.
We can come up with some mock-ups.
I think that.
Do that. Perhaps you come back with like 2 or 3 options. That seems to be the best approach.
And we each get one and we'll see who gets to it first.
Yeah, you guys can vote.
Okay, so are we going to table this for the next meeting?
No, the purpose of this is just so you can give us direction. We want to meet your needs. And so if you're comfortable, I'm hearing people talk, we can bring back to you 2 or 3 different options. You can see what they look like and let us know how you feel.
Okay, let's do round table right now. Trustee Alvarado, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I like the idea, but how does that intertwine with us approving board minutes? And if are there things that we have to approve to post? And if it's kind of intertwined within the agenda and official board docs? And this is a question I'm posing, like maybe someone could help
I
us.
think what the idea here is, this is when we ask a question in open session.
Yeah.
And staff tells us, we'll put it in the Friday letter. That's all this is sharing that answer with the public, finding a spot for the public to access that answer. So I don't know, do you have any ideas?
I'm fine with it. I just want to make sure that if there's a legality just with what we're posting, if it's intertwined with the minutes and the doc, I just want some kind of
Yeah,
clarification.
we will.
That's fine.
When we create a couple
Getting the
samples.
information out to folks. I just want to make sure it's vetted.
Yeah,
Like,
we will do
the
that.
way we approve minutes at the next meeting, that's all. It's a question.
Well, I can tell you right now that this would not be part of the minutes from that meeting because the answer didn't occur at that meeting. What we will do when we bring back examples is we'll make sure all of them are vetted through legal. We're not going to bring you a sample to choose if legal doesn't approve it. But you do have quite a few choices. It's really, and we can change, right? If you don't like it 4 months in and people say it doesn't work, we can make an adjustment.
Yeah.
There could also be questions like, for example, tonight, on like that one topic of, Vita, where like I would provided answers. Today without needing to go back to research, and I would like, those questions, I think are useful in public, so I would have. Not just the questions that we don't have an answer to, but the questions that, are asked in the presentation as well.
Well, I think that's getting into the weeds. That's the purpose of recording a board meeting. And we have that. That's the purpose of having it posted. So it's available for anyone to listen to. Many people do. So I don't think that that's something our team could do because that would be a large task. That's why we have a recorded meeting.
That's fine.
Okay, trustee Marco, do you have any?
No comments. No questions either.
Okay, trustee Marco.
No?
I like the idea of bringing, some ideas and then, we see what works.
Excellent. I'll do so.
Okay, thank you.
I will come back to you at the regular scheduled board meeting in February.
Okay, did I miss the lab presentation? Or no?
No, that's.
Oh, here we go,
that's
here we
good.
go.
That's
Okay,
good.
all right. 16 is a continuation. We don't have any of that, so staff committee reports to the board.
Yeah,
All right, oh, the big one,
yeah.
the budget, okay.
Is everyone good, or do we need to take a
Yeah,
restroom break?
does anyone want a break? No, okay.
All good, all right.
Let's
Here we
let's
go.
get this going.
Give me a second here. All right, so as we get ready to do the budget development process, strategic planning development process, the purpose of this meeting, this presentation is to get feedback from the board. So you're not voting on anything tonight, you're giving us feedback so that we prepare the necessary documents you're comfortable with in the future. And as you know, there's many meetings coming up. So we have a number of items that have a green little section on it that indicate that we actually need feedback from you on. So there'll be quite a few. We'll kind of move through this fairly quickly, I think. And again, the things we put on here are ideas based on what we've done in the past. So with that said, let's jump into it. Give me a second to get right up to the start of it. And we'll
Okay. And while he's getting ready, I'd like to ask my colleagues to probably hold your questions to the end if you would be so kind, so we can get through the presentation and then we can entertain questions and let them. Thank you, because we want to get out of here.
Yeah, well, so I just want to that's not the way we set it up. We're happy to do it that way. But the way we set it up was we have 3 or 4 slides that have a green mark on it, and that we want to stop on that slide, get feedback, and then get to the next slide, get feedback if you're comfortable.
Okay, yeah, it does.
But we want to go quickly, but that's how we designed it. And then
Okay.
we have our Anna White over here.
Rachel White.
Yeah, Rachel White, so that we're developing it. Again, the purpose of this is to make sure that we meet your needs as we work through the development of our budget.
Okay, is everybody okay with the new? Great.
Perfect, okay, and then
All right,
you have a paper copy as well, so we'll go through it.
go for it.
So, John, I'll let you start, and then I'm gonna talk about slide 2.
All right. Or slide 3, perhaps.
Slide 3.
Right, there we go. All right. Just a quick overview of the session. We will be moving quickly, and some of this is also provided here. So our purpose of these strategic planning sessions is to get and engage in an ongoing discussion about this multi-year budget, which now will be 25 through 2028. And we have a focus that we're proposing, and timelines that we'll take a look at. But this particular session is about getting feedback, as superintendent indicated. We're really looking at timelines, communications, process, general updates, and some background as to what's there and how we do our budgetary groupings, or we have done in the past. We have a fair number of discussion points to get to, but the first one comes to us right off the bat here on slide 3, which is the strategic planning timeline in various subjects. You're going to see a series of dates there for your discussion. It starts really with the first intro. But you're also going to see that some of these are not just bolded, they're underlined. The underlined are the currently planned special meetings. Okay, so those are currently planned special meetings, of which, based upon your discussion, you may need additional special meetings, you may not. But this is the timeline that's being proposed. So I'll turn it over to the superintendent, who is going to speak to this slide.
So when we think about budget development, there are 3 pieces to consider. We're going to talk about that soon, but it's really the budget, the LCAP, which is required of us. And then in our district, we have another unique document called the blueprint. The blueprint's just a little bit more detailed information than the LCAP. And we'll talk about that in a moment, but just know that it's not just budget development. All 3 are interconnected. Because in order to develop our budget, we need to have the actions and services that spend the money of the budget. So if you walk through this, what we attempted to do was to try to have a few special meetings, but also take advantage of regularly scheduled meetings, so you're not overwhelmed with meetings. We're more than happy to have more meetings. I just wanted to start, this is a nice starting place. So let me walk you through the thinking on it. If you're comfortable, are you good with that? Or would you
Well,
like
I think, are you ready to?
We don't need to.
Are you comfortable with this? We can
Yeah.
always change later.
Well, does anyone have any questions at this point?
Everyone
'Cause I
comfortable?
do, I have a question.
Please do. I want to point out a couple things, just to make sure people.
It's fine. It's on the April 17th.
Okay.
It says we're going, it's the LCAP community feedback review. So when are those LCAP community meetings taking place?
February, March.
Okay.
That's why we bring it to you in April.
Will we get a schedule of those meetings to know when?
Yeah, we can provide you a schedule. It's also online as we speak.
Okay.
Yes, there's a lot. That's a state requirement. It's also a state requirement to share with the board. So let me walk you through them just real quickly. top to bottom. December 16th already happened, obviously. January 16th, that's today, making sure that we have some agreements with you. You can see January 23rd, that's actually the governance workshop. So what we're proposing is that you have a couple hours with governance and an hour or so with this. And the reason we're proposing this is because we'll have more details about where the state and the federal government is with regard to its impact on our budget. Won't be long, but I think it's a necessary bit of information. So there, I say that only because we'd have to agendize that with two topics, governance and then budget development as well. Next one, let me know if I'm going too fast, February 6th. There's two elements to this. One element is in closed session, and that is a conversation about budget development as it relates to labor negotiations. The board seemed to appreciate that because there are some relationships there. And then the second one would be an open session, and there are two components to that. One is a requirement from the state, and that's the mid-year LCAP update. That should go fairly quickly. And then we really would like to dig in with you about staffing. Staffing is the largest component of your budget development. Obviously, we need to get direction from this team on staffing. Moving on, let me know if I'm going too fast. March 6th is the official second interim. And then April 17th is the LCAP community forum review that's required, where you'll get feedback, kind of high-level themes from the various committees or community organizations. And then April 24th is a special board meeting where we really kind of hunker down, spend about 4 hours and drill into the actions and services, making sure that you are all comfortable with how we're developing the plan. Moving into June 12th, that's required by the state of California. That's the official public hearing where anyone from the public can give you final feedback. You also have an opportunity to give us final feedback. And then, of course, June 26th is when we have to have the adoption. The goal is to have no questions on June 26th, because if we don't adopt it, then we're going to have a problem with July 1. It has to be adopted before July 1. Any questions about the process? If you're comfortable, all we need is feedback that you're comfortable with this. We can always change this at any time, but we do need to start the plan.
Okay. Everybody's comfortable. I had a question. Go ahead.
One comment. Recognizing that the governor presents his May revise in the month of May, so for situational awareness, knowing that, there's gonna be an update on that between that April 24th and June 12th meeting.
Yeah, so we've done this in the past where if we get some kind of a curveball thrown at us by the governor in the May revise, we can call a special meeting. At this point, we don't anticipate it, but it's entirely possible. The board can absolutely call a special meeting if we feel we need it.
Okay, and my question is, I kind of think that if we're gonna be doing budget and LCAP and all of that stuff, we might want to take a look at our board goals. Is there a
Board
time?
goals is actually embedded in it as we go through it. So and we'll get to that in a couple more slides.
Right, I saw it in the presentation, but I was wondering when we will be going over the board goals, because I think we need to revise them.
Yeah, we typically talk about that in February, at the February meeting.
Is that part of the governance?
It's actually written here. If you look at February 6th, special session number 2, labor negotiations, mid-year LCAP updates, staffing and board goals.
Thank you. Okay.
Moving on. So we have consensus. We're good. All I see thumbs up on that. All right, moving forward. Next one. Walk them through this.
Yeah, slide 4 just reflects the ongoing LCAP process. It's a graphic that's been presented to the board before. Our focus is to take you to slide 5 this evening to talk about communications plans and reports. There are certain things that are legally required, including the LCAP overview, which is just a 2-page general overview that we post online. The LCAP itself, we do a series of budget presentations and other items, and we actually publish our SACS report, which is the full budget report, but that's just metrics and numbers. Sort of what bridges in there that we wanted to share with you is this blueprint, which is a Vista unified innovation. And the blueprint is the actions and services, all the things that we're doing above what we call the core program. What are the actions we're taking? What are the services? And we define that out. It's broader than just the LCAP. The LCAP itself is for supplemental and concentration dollars by legally required to call that out. The blueprint is supplemental and concentration dollars plus additional actions and services that the district has taken. We also wanted to put out there that other districts, depending upon how you do it, have different communication structures as well. Including some of them do general one sheets, almost like marketing information for people that some people find a lot easier to digest than things like the LCAP overview, which even myself, I have a hard time at my own kid's school district trying to understand everything in 2 sheets that isn't necessarily articulated. When some districts get into describing their core program, why they have staffing ratios at schools and other items, typically at that point, it turns into something called a budget book, which is a huge publication that doesn't come out at the time of the approval of an LCAP. It takes a while to develop that afterwards because it's almost a publication of hundreds of pages, oftentimes in addition to the SACS report. So there are some districts that have attempted to do that over the years. It's not necessarily common practice, but we wanted it to be here as an option for the board to consider. But these have been our communication plans and reports that we give to the community in addition to what we do in the LCAP community feedback process. This is something very different than just that. So we wanted to present this information to you as well for your feedback, input, consensus, and direction for staff.
Okay, feedback, let's start with trustee Vargas.
So this process also involves doing surveys, community forums. I think that's, the document itself, is always available to us, but, it's always useful as we make the recommendations, but no changes on this slide.
Yeah, the surveys and community feedback would be in the purple circle.
Okay, trustee Marva?
I think that, the current resources look adequate. If you do a general one sheet outreach, that's great, but the budget book maybe is a little much.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Martin?
I don't have any comments at this moment.
Okay, trustee Alvarado?
I agree with, seeing that we have a blueprint that's very unique to Vista Unified, so, I don't know if we need those additional options. This is a lot to digest for our stakeholders, how they differentiate between LCAP and blueprint. And so sometimes we just have to keep it simple, not simple, but like, that's just more to process, and I don't know, it's overload sometimes, is my point.
So I actually like the idea of a budget book. I think that, not that we would have to actually use it or anything, but it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So I'm sort of thinking along those lines, and if we have that available to our public, to our stakeholders and to our general public, then that could answer a lot of questions for them, rather than, them leading a town hall feeling like they didn't get all the information. It would be right there.
How big is a budget book?
Hundreds of pages. Again, it's possible. Why don't we come up with a sample? It wouldn't be our budget book. It would be an example.
Yeah, no, right.
Of what a budget book could look like.
We can do that by tomorrow morning, I'm sure. Yeah, so it's generally, so if you think of the standardized accounting code system, right, SACS report. It's generally all of that information, which is currently between 100 and 150 pages at about 6.5. It's that expanded to a size most people can read. And then in addition, it breaks it out programmatically by programmatically. So it would take things that are part of our agreements. We staff schools based upon the following staffing ratios. Here's each school staffing and how you do it. So it takes all of that, then it describes program by program, what is the core program, and then breaks the budget out. That's why I'm saying typically it takes even large school districts about 5 to 6 months after the passage of the budget to develop the budget book. So it's if you think about some of the various reports you get, it's almost circumspect. It's looking back to tell the public what it was as you're engaged in the next budget process, but we can get you some examples.
So this budget book, we would then do it after we've completed the budgeting process, is that correct?
Yes, because
Okay.
we can't write one until we
No.
know what you want.
I get that, but it sounds to me, I personally, I'm kind of thinking that that's, I mean, I like the sound of that, I know it's a lot of work for you guys, but I'm like, that to me sounds like it can
We
answer a
can
lot
give
of
you a sample.
questions.
I mean, I didn't mean that we would create our own. We will give you one that exists in another district, so you can have a look at it. Do what you think.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
Carry on,
all right, so we're ready to move on?
unless there's any other comments, any other comments?
Consensus though?
We
I
have
just put
consensus.
plus and plus, but those have been different comments from different people.
Well, let's take a consensus, who would like to see the budget book? Great, thumbs up,
I'll see a sample.
sample,
Take a look at
sample,
it.
okay,
But
thank you.
just so we're clear, but in terms of our concentric circles, we're gonna go forward with the current structures that we use.
And then what about the general one sheet and resource?
You want us to come up with another sample on
sorry.
that too? and give you a
General
sample
one
with that?
sheet and outreach. I don't know why I wrote resource. I need glasses for that.
Honestly, I think the current resources there looks like it's a funny. I mean,
Okay,
it's, I like the one sheet just because it kind of summarizes maybe all of that, or anyway, it's just, I think that a basic education for people to look at, and I think that's a good thing, but that's, anyway.
For many of the communication items, we can provide you samples, not a problem. You don't have to decide on that tonight. Clearly, we would have to pass a budget before doing a budget book. We'd have to pass a budget before developing a one sheet, so.
Okay,
We
so
provide
you want sample of that too, the one sheet?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Ready to move on, next slide? Okay, moving on. Obviously, trustee Morocco mentioned it. Board goals, conversations, adjustments to the board goals, of course, that the board can do that. We will have that embedded in the conversation on February 6th. Moving to the next one, this slide, again, our job is to write the actions and services based on feedback from the board and feedback from the community. Last year, these bullets came from the board members last year when we went through a process. So we wanted to make sure that we're similar, or if we wanted to make any adjustments to these directions, but this is like general development strategy / directions as we develop the actions and services. Things like, do we all agree that the number one focus should be keeping students at the center of all the actions? It seems like a no-brainer, but I should ask the question. Is that something we should continue with?
Are you asking that, or are you
Yeah,
doing it?
no, I just want to get
Okay,
consensus
sure, all right.
here.
Consensus?
I'm mindful of the time, so I'll try to
Okay,
get.
yes.
Okay, so number two, is there consensus that we want to keep the focus on the framework for the future, the board goals, or any revisions that are made to it? And our equity policy. Again, this was something that was there last year.
Sure.
Okay, my thinking on that, does anybody else want to say?
I just have a question.
Sure.
My question is, are these in order of importance? Are they random? Are they?
These are the order that they came up when the board had this discussion last year. I don't want to say importance, this is the order that they came up last
Okay,
year.
so one doesn't weigh heavier than the other.
I don't think that
At
we
this moment.
didn't put numbers on them.
My only thing is I kind of would like to separate those things out, framework, board goals, and equity policies. Their own bullet points. That's my only thinking.
Is there consensus, the other board members, you'd like us to separate them out?
Is it, everyone okay with that?
Yeah. All right, so we'll separate them out. We're just gonna separate out those three items. Moving on, staff and stability, avoiding layoffs.
No, maintain positive.
I'm sorry. Dude, and 30 seconds, Sean, on positive certification, so everyone's clear on that.
Sorry.
So there are three various status that you can be in. You can be positively certified. That's the one we want. And that simply means you can pay your bills for the next 3 years according to the multi-year budget, right? Then you have qualified, which means you can do it for the first year or so, but you're not so sure in the third year. If that's the case, the county can come back and actually move you from your second interim structure to a third interim structure and ask for more reports and ask for your plan for how you want to move to positive certification. And then clearly, if you have negative certification, you're not qualified at all. That means we don't have a term called bankrupt in public agencies, but it means that we're insolvent. It means we haven't been able to demonstrate according to our budget that we can pay our bills on the multi-year budget. And in that case, the county intervenes.
We're good on that.
Any questions?
When was the last time we had a qualified certification from the county of San Diego?
2019.
Oh, I remember that night. Thank you.
Oh, I remember it too.
We had a visit from the county office of
Yeah.
education.
Any questions?
Right.
Nope, okay,
Okay.
consensus?
We're good, all right, moving on.
Okay.
Staffing stability and avoiding layoffs.
Yep.
Okay, let me know if I'm going too fast. Rebenching actions and services to align to the report goals or the adjusted goals. So that means the items that we choose to assign money to align to the board goals.
Right.
Okay, moving on. Reduce base expenditures. That basically means shrink the budget so we can focus in the areas you want to focus on.
Okay, yeah.
Prioritize supplemental and concentration funds. That means you strategically utilize them for the areas that you believe are necessary for the students.
Mhm.
Let me know if I'm going too fast. Create a 5-year LCAP plan. I'm sorry. Yeah, create a 5-year LCAP plan. Right now, LCAP is based on 3. The last year, the board wanted us to kind of show a 5-year playout plan. We could do that. We would not be submitting that to the state. We only submit the 3-year. So basically projected over 5 years, is what they're saying.
Is that possible, or is it speculative? How accurate can a 5-year plan be?
So I'm gonna give you my answer and then I'll have Dr. Loescher give you his answer. Year 3 is speculative. Year 4 and 5 is impossible. That's my opinion. Go ahead.
Correct.
So
I don't think.
I think 3, should we stick with the 3-year?
That's a requirement.
Is your board?
Oh, 5 years required?
No, 3 years is a requirement.
Okay, so why did we say 5?
It just came up. I'm just sharing with you what came up last year.
You know, I think it might have been connected to the cost escalations of preparing our schools and wanting to have money in the general fund to repair some of our schools. I think it might have come up because of that. That sounds like.
That, but
familiar
also
to me.
with declining enrollment, we
Yeah.
wanted to be prepared so that we never have to cut $25 million.
Yeah.
Within a 12-month period.
We could, again, just to be clear, we can project over 5 years. We're just simply saying, as trustee Martin pointed out, that year 4 and 5 is probably not accurate.
Correct.
Whatever the board wants to do, the will of the board, I think we're just trying to plan for worst case scenario and not having to just cut so much, so quick, so soon.
Should we leave it there, just let it hang out there for a while, or you want to report?
No, I think we should change it to 3 years.
I just need consensus from the board. That's fine. Great, all right, we're gonna move that to 3. Reduce utility usage. No, and we have a report for that, so we can show you where our report is and how we're progressing in that area. Would you like that to remain?
I thought I didn't realize that was a huge expense.
Oh, it can be big.
But I mean, I thought we were already doing like stuff.
We are.
So there's a number of things we can provide. I think the general overview here is we wanted to, first of all, where we could enact plans that would cut actual utility costs. And keep in mind, broad term for utility. We're talking about gasoline and other items. There's all sorts of things associated with that. So one utility may go down, purchasing of gas while you implement electric buses. Clearly, we're gonna use more electricity, right? So it's more of a balancing act in total cost. But the other was to enact certain items to make sure that we did reduce overall utility use beyond that. For example, we're replacing all lighting with LED lighting, right? We have new HVAC systems that we had a huge push from this last summer. We should reduce utility items. So that was a focus of reducing our utility impact, both from a cost perspective, but also from a carbon emission perspective and noise perspective.
Okay. We have consensus.
All right, and then address reduction in COLA.
Yeah.
Are there any other items you want us to be thinking about? And again, you can add more the next meeting too, but it's good direction for us.
I would say, thinking about our infrastructure in the general fund, money to repair.
So you're talking about facility infrastructure?
Facility. Can we consider that in the general fund? What's the will of the board?
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to fix buildings for sure. So, yeah, I mean, it's like how we can how can we save money? That's, I think, the big part that we can use for.
Well, how do we spend money as effectively as possible to get the best student outcomes?
I'm hearing two things though. I'm hearing effectively utilizing our funds for student outcomes, but I'm also hearing that we have facility issues. And we want to fix facilities. So those could be two separate bullets.
Yeah, the very first bullet point.
Yeah,
is
addresses
keep
student outcomes.
kind of the students at the center. And, you know, the buildings and, you know, maintenance and things like that, you don't want, you know. Anyway, yeah, I think that having the money that we can, you know, save our time and to, you know, be able to fix things with is important to be able to do.
Specifically because we don't have Fund 40, or we don't have much in Fund 40, am I correct?
Yeah, we're running out of Fund $40. The term we use is that it's oversubscribed, meaning we have way more projects than we have funds available for them.
So, but I think, yeah, so if that's the will of the board, so that we have enough to just keep the basic upkeep of the schools that are quite old.
So a potential bullet could be address facility maintenance needs. Are you comfortable with that bullet? You're not giving us a strategy, you're not giving us an action right now. This is something for us to keep in mind as we develop the actions.
Yeah, so there was a and I think you're gonna talk about it in the budget, and maybe that's going on here, but there's a 3% set aside that California asks us to keep.
Yep.
Is that something that we can just, you know, say up the percentage on?
Yes, you
And
may. Yes, you may.
that'll go in the general fund and goes in reserve. Okay. So I'm still learning this part, but.
Well, he can address that question.
So there's a recommendation of an amount from the state of California. They recommend that you set aside 3%. And when you set it aside, it becomes a special account. But it comes factually, all the money comes in, so you have to set it aside. What we can provide is, you know, the analysis that has been done, which is there's two things. Keep in mind that a budget is not what you factually spend. So there's some complications here, right? You have to demonstrate solvency in your budget. What you spend impacts the future of that. One of the things that we've noticed over the course of time, particularly as our facility dollars have come down, is that the amount that is being spent on facility maintenance, just general maintenance, is dramatically going up. Keep in mind, the state recommends 3%, but they recommend 3% whether you're a brand new school district or a school district that's 150 years old. They don't have a slide scale of saying your average age of facility is this, therefore you should budget this, or your rain conditions. They don't do anything like that. They just generally put out there 3%. It doesn't necessarily correlate to what your needs are. But what we have seen is we do expense far more than what has been budgeted.
In the 3%.
Oh, yes.
Far more than 3% of what's budgeted. And we also have noted in the case of this year, we've had some facility things have happened. VAPA is the first one that comes to mind. We opened the school year with a massive flood, where our insurance company will not cover that school. We have to pay for that. So that's
Why
sort of,
won't the insurance company cover this?
because it's been deemed that we haven't maintained our facilities and kept them up to date in their plumbing codes and other items. So it's not their responsibility. We haven't met our fiduciary obligation to the insurance requirements for them to cover it. Therefore, if you don't meet those, you no longer can get the insurability or the insurance dollars for some of those items that you otherwise would. If it's a brand new building, that's something different. There's different things to apply, right?
So what would be a good percentage, you think, to aim for? Would it
What-
like double that, like go to 6%, 7%?
What I think we would do, I think the best way to probably approach this would be, we could show you the historic trend over time of how much we've been spending and how it's escalating, and show it in terms of the number of incidents. So we are currently spending, we can get you a final number, well, just about double is what we presented at a board meeting, about 3 board meetings ago. So we can
give you a
present
ballpark
those.
later.
Yeah.
I think the question on the table right now, and again, I'm mindful of time, is just, is this a topic we should include as we think through our budget strategy? facility maintenance is what's on the table right now.
Yes.
I think we've got consensus. Good, let's move on. And so there's a couple really quick highlights. I'm sorry, go
I'd like
ahead.
to add one. I'd
Oh,
like
please
to,
do.
I'd like to look forward to smaller class sizes, particularly K through 3, starting there, but also escalating as we go through the grade levels.
Okay, we'll add that. Is there consensus on that?
TK3, or well, TK is up, K3.
K3
I'd like it to go through 5, actually. Are you okay with that?
in the beginning.
Yeah,
Okay, sure.
well, I think fourth and fifth grader, yeah. I would like to just focus on elementary.
This is just helpful for us because it gives us some general direction about how we can develop some preliminary ideas and actions and services. You guys will have much dialogue about that.
And one other, I'd like to budget for retention and, well, I lost the other word. Retention of, staff members. Meaning we're going to have to budget for salary,
Recruitment, retention.
recruitment.
Is there consensus on that?
Yes.
Okay, all right, moving on. Let me know if I'm going too fast for you. These next couple of slides we'll go through quickly. The governor did put out his preliminary budget in January. Likely will change in May. They may revise. Dr. Loester has some quick updates for you, and then we will give you updates again next week as we get new information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Doyle. Our purpose here is not to go into great depth, but to just give you a general overview. First of all, you did keep your strategy for addressing a COLA reduction. And one of the things first up is you're going to see that the COLA is proposed at 2.43, which is in fact a reduction that they are proposing for the future. Here was the big highlights that I took away just from the highest level overview of this. There is a fully balanced budget being proposed with no deficits at this time. It's always important to emphasize with these matters at this time because these change with tax collections and projection. However, part of that is the balancing act. There's a reduced COLA. We're going to see that in the second intro. We're going to change one of those assumptions. Remember, we only use an assumption that's provided to us. The assumption will have changed from about 2.9% down to 2.43% as we look to the future. Now, Prop 98 proposed amount in terms of increase right now at $3.6 billion. Again, that seems like a massive sum of money. However, when you sort of look at the number of school districts that are out there and everything else, that is not a large sum for our district. In terms of the reserves, they're maintaining a decent rainy day fund of about $11 billion. Prop 98 reserves are sitting at about 1.5 billion. Special fund for economic uncertainties, which is their special reserve, that's 4.5 billion in addition to the rainy day fund. All right. So they do have some reserves there. There are some anticipated educational investments. However, there's always a balance with this. Every time they propose it. 1.8 billion for new one-time Prop 98 discretionary. We talked about this previously. There was some windfall money from this year. We anticipated they wouldn't give it to us this year. They would propose something. One-time funds, typically you're not permitted to use for staffing, salaries, and other items. They just don't permit for you to use that. So it's a one-time amount, and we will get more information on that. The $4.4 billion for extended learning opportunities, that's for the maintenance of the current ones. That's not an additional 4.4 over the top for new. Right now, they're proposing a maintenance, and it includes the COLA within that. For transitional kindergarten implementation, $2.4 billion. However, they are tagging on to this, and we should anticipate, they're recommending that if you're taking that money, you'll have to staff it at 1 to 10 ratios.
This could be a big one here.
This would be a significant change in the way we would have to staff.
What is it staff now?
12 to 2. Well, it's 12 to 1.
12.
Yeah, 24 to 2.
So 10 to 1, that's larger class sizes?
Small.
Smaller. Oh, wow. That, we just.
Additional staffing and facilities.
Yeah, however, the amount that they're providing us is likely to be less than the amount that they're calling for to do it. Sometimes it's called an unfunded mandate or a underfunded mandate, right? All right. School meal program, certainly sitting at about 2 billion, 1 billion for arts and music. That's a maintenance of Prop 28 and not an expansion. And then $311 million for the LCFF equity multiplier is anticipated. This is, of course, information that was provided by School Services of California and has been reported by others. They seem to have an agreement on these items. So what's the bottom line that they're recommending people look at. So the preliminary budget, they're saying is basically it's balanced, but it's likely to change in the upcoming months. They're saying, approach it calmly, but know that it's gonna move around. The COLA is slightly lower than anticipated, so we're gonna have to adjust that. Keep in mind, our year 3, we didn't have a large margin, so we're gonna have to look at that as we do our second interim. Revenues are higher, but this is the other thing they're saying. Remember, so are costs. So it's basically offsetting. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have more purchasing power with these dollars. When you look in terms of revenues, they're saying they're within the margins. This is a really fancy, at least I find fancy economic term for saying, it could fall out of these parameters quickly. It's inside of the margins of what they're seeing, but it's likely to change. The unduplicated pupil count for reporting has impacts. Now, if you recall, there's different ways of going about reporting this. The traditional way was tied to free and reduced meals at lunch. With the universal program, we don't get quite as many reports. So they're saying pay careful attention to how you report that and your collection on those, because those can have significant implications. Next, the number one factor they're saying in California, with 80% of districts in declining enrollment, pay careful attention to your declining enrollment and your average daily attendance. So it's both, it's your enrollment and your ADA, that average daily attendance. But keep in mind, they base it on what's called your period 2, your P2 report. It's not based upon your whole year.
So what month is P2?
That is upcoming. We have that upcoming here in February. So it's happening fast. So they literally are taking the reading at the time of year that kids are the sickest, all right? December, January, that's when the reading's being taken, all right? So just be aware, we get those things. We should be really proud. Our numbers are up and we should take pride in that. But that doesn't mean they're gonna take all that data. They're gonna take that P2 data, all right? Without one-time dollars, fewer reserves, a balanced budget doesn't necessarily mean we're gonna meet all cash flow requirements. Keep in mind, again, budgeting, expenditures and cash flow, these are 3 separate matters from a solvency standpoint. You can meet your budget, but we don't get all of the money up front. We get the money dispersed throughout the year. That means we have to pay careful attention to cash flow. And we need to make sure we can pay all of our bills and our employees on time. And as we've seen tonight, lots of bills coming in, lots of employees to play, lots of things happening. So we want to make sure we pay attention, not just to budget and expense, but to cash flow. And then this is the big one. And this is not doom and gloom. This is just, we report the facts. We don't know within incoming administration at the federal level what that means for federal funding. We know that certain things have been proposed, including that they may suspend funding, either part and full, to certain states or certain districts. We have to see what that looks like. What we do know is California set up a $25 million defense fund for legal defense to engage in that. But we factually don't know what those look like. And keep in mind that some of our largest dollar amounts that we receive, we typically talk in this room about Title I, but the largest amounts we receive, the National School Lunch Program. We receive funds for special education, migrant education. We receive a variety of federal funds, right down to ROTC is federally funded in part for positions. So we just need to keep that in mind. Career technical education, Perkins 131, adult education, Perkins 132, each one of those. So we just have to keep that in focus. We just don't know right now. And it's not doom and gloom. It's our fiduciary obligation to share with you. We may have a different conversation in a week, a month, or in 6 months. And that's our purpose in sharing that.
All right, so the next set of slides is just a FYI as we move into talking specifically about numbers. So Dr. Lewis was going to bring you through it, but we did want you to have a general idea.
And Dr. Lotion, if I could ask you to just summarize.
Yeah.
Because we want to move on.
We
Yeah.
go quickly.
We're going to be extraordinary quick on this, President Barnum. We just wanted to break things out. So general fund base, 223.8 million. We just broke it out into the large buckets that you would see are large categories. What's going into schools, district offices, contributions to SPED, various funds, right? So that you have that information as we go. We provided this last year as well. The next
It's based on first interim. So
correct,
this is-
all based on first interim reporting already accepted. Not new data information. It's just broken out differently. So then, what's the general fund LCF, the supplemental and concentration dollars? What does that look like? So what's going into schools? Roughly 36.4 million. These are the actions and services that you can see, not listed by dollar amounts, just an overview, and then what's happening at the district office. Then when we move down to the restricted funds, because restricted funds, keep in mind, we have to expense it according to the restricted requirements, and we get large sums of money in some cases, and then we have to hold it. We have to have a plan for years. So where do we sit? Currently, 161.7 million is allocated for schools to execute those restricted programs. There's about $15 million in central programs and services that are located there. So we wanted you to have those numbers available to you.
And then the next slides again, quickly, as we think about adjusting our board goals and we think about the actions and services, we are required to align all of those to the LCAP 3 priorities at the state level. You should be familiar to you because that's how we aligned our board goals, engagement, conditions of learning, and pupil outcomes. And this is some details about it. We'll talk later about it, but it's just mental note. We are required to align our work to these areas. And then the last couple slides, and then we're finished.
This is actually feedback and input.
Yeah, this is the feedback part. These were the buckets that we started the conversation with the board members last year about as we developed the actions and services. We can create different buckets, we can maintain these buckets, we can add buckets, but this is another feedback opportunity for you to tell us as we start to kind of develop those actions and services. And these numbers are based on last year's bucket.
Okay, any feedback? Let's start with, did I start with you last time, Mike? Okay, trustee Markov.
I don't have any feedback at this
Okay,
time.
trustee Martin.
Can we move these buckets around?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you can make subsets of buckets. We just started with these because these seem to be the big buckets.
And we do not need to firm this up this evening.
No, but we need to start prepping items for you, so we want to make sure we're in the ballpark. If you look at the triangle at the bottom, this is what we call our glide path. Keep in mind that these numbers are going to change in the coming months because there's fewer monies. And that's the purpose of that glide path, showing that between now and 2026, a lot of these monies are going away because one-time funding is going away.
And I want to point out that there's 2 pages of buckets.
Yes, there's a total of 8 buckets, and if you look in the LCAP, also in the blueprint, you'll see year 1, year 2, year 3. And you're gonna see many of the things that align to these buckets. Yeah, they're combined, but they, over the years, for this year to next year to the year follow, already have a glide path down because we have fewer dollars available. So that's how that strategy was talked about.
Okay, any further comments?
One comment on my end, based on, this is what we approved last year, so like, my question is, out of all these buckets, which ones we are not fully spent? And then with that, making a comment on, looking at the federal government, what may be potential, what we may be potentially losing. And so setting aside, some of these, funding to, supplement some of the federal funding that, we use for, whether they're MagnaNet or some other programs that are federally funded.
Yeah, we can create a report on these particular items and provide it for the board on what is the status of spending. We have previously done a update on the blueprint on those items.
Can you prepare information that is financed only or solely through federal funds that we might be facing?
Absolutely.
We can prepare it any way you would like. I would recommend to the board that we provide you not just those that are solely, but many times, federal funds are based upon what's called a maintenance of effort.
Yeah.
Meaning it's not sitting alone. For example, ROTC is not funded alone, or career technical education or many other things. We have to demonstrate a maintenance of effort. So my recommendation is we can provide what is alone, but also what is a maintenance of effort requirement and what are the federal funds and what they're going to.
But what I'm hearing is you want us to separate out the federal funds so we can really dig into that and make a determination of what.
I do. I'm concerned with what we're gonna lose
I
if
agree.
we lose.
I hear you. I just want to make sure I'm listening to you correctly. One thing that's interesting to note about this, and again, I'm mindful of the time, but this is like the main event, right? Budget development for a board. When you look at these buckets, and again, we did this on purpose because it can get really complex. You mentioned, Trustee Vargas mentioned, where do we have extra things? There's this thing called carryover.
Mhm.
So when you develop buckets, and we'll use this as an example, staff support, 19.2 million. That's generally speaking, the amount of money that we identify through a series of actions and services. And almost always you don't spend it all. And there's an amount that falls to the bottom of that bucket called carryover. And there's a variety of reasons why you don't spend it all. Sometimes you're not able to find enough staff. Sometimes a professional development was canceled. There's a whole variety of different reasons why, but each of those buckets will have an amount of carryover that is unspent. And we can tell you what that carryover was last year, so you know.
Okay, any further feedback?
I have a question on, with some of these buckets. How many of them are funded like through community schools funding where the CSAC committee has already voted and they decided that they want to use their per year funding on that? Is there a way to differentiate that?
We can, we created these buckets to be super simple. So these are buckets are inclusive of all, both items that are identified for restricted, which is community schools. That's a restricted funding source because there's requirements of that. And then there's unrestricted sources like S&C. So these buckets represent both, but we can break them out and show them to you. And by the way, in the blueprint, they are broken out. It's very specific in the blueprint. When we get to it, we'll walk you through that aspect of it.
I only ask because, I mean, if we see a bucket and it includes some of those funds, then the site already voted to like use those funds
Yes.
in that way.
And that would be like restricted. That would be an example of restricted
Okay.
where while the board can have a conversation about it, we still have to stay within the parameters of the assurances of that grant. I'm using community schools as an example. And for our newer board members, we have 12 schools that would fall into that parameter because we have 12 community schools. Yeah, 12 grants.
Okay, any further feedback?
That's good. That's all we need for this evening.
Awesome, thank you. I'm gonna call for a break for like 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I understand. So
Thank you.
thank you.
I've been-
Thank you for doing.
Thank you all day.
Okay,
Okay, we are reconvening. We are going to the GLAD program update.
there we go.
Okay. Narita, that's gotta be really quick.
Yes, that. Okay. Good evening.
We want to get everybody here.
The governance handbook says it should be 10 to 15 minutes for the presentation, so, in order to build capacity for our new trustees, I think it's important to really, this is about the kids.
Okay, so this was a response to a request that I had. So I was going to ask if,
I requested it as well.
okay.
Good evening. So I'm here to provide an update in terms of our GLAD. This is in reference to the GLAD strategic plan that was approved, reviewed last school year in March 2023. And so what I'm going to highlight through this update is three major things. One of them is our successes and our paths of where we are with GLAD and getting all of our teachers trained per our goal of getting 100% of our teachers trained. That is going to be in 2029. So right now we have, by the end of the year, we will have about a third of our teachers that will be GLAD certified trained. In addition to building our own internal trainer of trainers. And that would actually help to address item 3, which is specific questions related to the contract. So slide 2, it's very specific of what GLAD is. But overall, when looking at the LCAP and blueprint that was approved last year in June, when looking at the plan, one of our goals is to address our English language learners. And so when looking at what project specifically GLAD is, we have, it's an effective instructional model, it's research-based, and it's 30+ years. In terms of effective strategies, it's both designated and integrated. And so when looking at it, and just to reference to some of the questions that have come up in terms of the contract, Orange County Office of Ed is the national certified trainer. So they are the ones that can certify any trainer of trainers. When looking at slide 3, that's the training rollout. So there are 3 types of trainings that we offer. We have the exposure, it's not the full certification, but they do get an understanding of what GLAD is. GLAD certified teachers, this is the formal training. So when you're thinking about, there's two steps, there's step 1 and step 2. And so there's a 2-day and a 4-day. And then the GLAD certified trainers, which is our trainer of trainers. Right now we have 1 trainer that's certified. And so we are working on certifying 3. And so this in the future will allow us to actually train more in-house and rely less in outside contracts. The process for certification, part 1 and part 2. So that is the breakdown in terms of what entails in part 1. For example, the first part is theory and research. It's a 2-day workshop. The second part is a classroom demonstration. And so this is for any teacher. Part 2. So part 2 just goes into details about the breakdown of the hands-on experience, the collaboration and planning and implementation. And I highlight this because when looking at the contracts, you have to complete one before you go to the other. And when we're contracting out with Orange County Office of Ed or San Diego County Office of Ed, we have to align ourselves when they have available dates. So that may address some of your questions when we get into the GLAD. So after the March GLAD strategic plan was presented, we developed a GLAD action plan. And we had 5 goals, which was to provide administrator training, to increase GLAD implementation, and develop a tracking and communication tool, identify staff who completed part 1 and part 2, and increase our own internal opportunities for the trainer of trainers, and provide supplementary secondary ELD professional development. And I can already confirm that 82 For this school year, 82 of our school administrators have been trained on the 2-day GLAD training. And in terms of the certification tracking, we've developed our own tracking system. We will have 236 teachers that will be trained at the end of this school year. And of course, we would have completed our own trainer of trainers. The one area that we are looking into that was in our plan is providing our secondary teachers and leaders to engage in new GLAD secondary training. So I wanted to clarify that for secondary teachers to receive training, Orange County Office of Ed is currently revamping their training so that it's more aligned to secondary teachers. So you may have heard about, why is there a pause? There's a pause because they are, the National Training Center, which is Orange County Office of Ed, are currently working on it. So we are in communication with them of when the upcoming or release of the actual GLAD training for secondary. And so the next step goes through the certification process. I do think that I've already reviewed that, part 1 and part 2. And so the next item is, it's the breakdown of the specific plan that was approved last year. So when looking at the 3 line items, we there have the positions that were approved, and that is how we pay for our 2 GLAD resource teachers. In addition to that, it does provide a breakdown of the materials and supplies for professional development. And we also have our educator effectiveness grant. And so when looking at this, this is the specific item that is related to the contract. Starting from the top, we have an amount of contracted for $224,590. And that's to address the preschool TKK teacher GLAD training. And all of our teachers have been trained in that specific area. And Sandra is here, so if there's any questions related to the grant, but I did want to highlight that there is a goal in order to increase our preschool to kinder teachers to be highly trained, including our administrators. So we were able to use part of this grant to address some of the contracts. Now, item 2, the GLAD Part 2 teacher training was also paid out of educator effectiveness, and that was already approved in November of 2024. And so going down to the 3rd line item that specifically speaks about the contracts. And this is where we had a modification in terms of our contract. There was a procedure error in terms of that we received approval in June of 2024 for our LCAP blueprint. And included in LCAP blueprint were the GLAD training. And so within that line item, we did have the amount of the $150,000. So we had committed. So when thinking about the training model of parts 1 and parts 2, you have to align that we had committed as a district through the LCAP to train, including our trainer of trainers. So we had limited days of the availability of part 1 or part 2. And so our team was able to move forward and attend part of that training. Now, why are we now looking at the second part of it? Well, it's a 12 to 18 month process. We are in track. So we do not want to pause certifying our trainer of trainers because that would allow us to reduce the contracts going out and to increase the number of teachers that we could train. So going back and addressing the specifics of the 24,000 that the services have already been rendered, right, in terms of part 1. Part 2 will be completed in June of this school year. So our goal, all of our TOSAs right now that receive this training will be certified by June of this year. And so that is the $22,000. So it is part of the contract. And so I hope this helps to explain in terms of the break of the contracts.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
You said that we have 4 trainers already certified in VUSD.
We have 1 and we will have 4 by the end of this school year because we have the one that is already certified.
Can those 4 suffice in training the rest of our teachers, or do we have
Yes,
to continue? I'm seeing money going. Continuous.
yes. So it would, okay, the additional contract that we have pending of the 150 will address, or any pending contracts would be with the secondary, which we had also committed to train all of our core teachers in the district, right? And so since we do not have an updated, or Orange County Office of Ed, I'm not gonna say updated, they're actually developing a secondary GLAD training. So since they are just developing it, once they bring it out and say, and, you know, communicate with us that they're ready to roll out the training, then that's when we will move forward with getting the training for our secondary.
When you say secondary, are you talking about secondary school teachers? or
Yes, like middle and high
secondary?
school,
Okay.
yes.
No,
You have any more questions?
I do, but go ahead.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, I have a question.
Yes,
The one that's certified, the teacher that's certified, elementary or secondary?
elementary.
Okay, thank you. Sudi, did you wanna, do you have anything else? Anything else?
I'm working on it.
Okay, anybody else?
Could you, explain how a secondary teacher would use, say, a GLAD strategy, say, in chemistry or in math?
I can't get into the specific details, but when we're talking about English language development designated, it's specifically when looking at content areas, we're looking at vocabulary explicit. So designated and integrated. So 2 concepts, right? We're required to teach both designated and integrated. So if I am a specific math teacher, right, or English teacher, and so I have English language learners in my class, by getting this training in GLAD, then I know how to address the needs of our English language learners in that specific core area in a designated component that's being designated, integrated, that is integrated into the core. Because we have to, we're federally mandated to be able to address our English language learner needs and provide designated and integrated.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes, but correct me if I'm wrong, if these kids are in mainstream classrooms at that point, they have accelerated out of the ELD program to the most part. They may have a little bit of assistance. And you're now going to be asking all core teachers, English, math, science, and social studies to learn the GLAD, to do the GLAD training.
you want Rafa to answer that
Yes.
question? 'Cause
Oh,
he's the
Sorry,
expert.
where's Rafa? Sorry. I forgot to speak.
Good evening. Thank you for having us and to bring this topic to the discussion. We believe that our students who have acquired levels of language proficiency, whether these are levels 2 and above, before they meet reclassification criteria, students will need supports from teachers when they go to mainstream classrooms. What this means is that, you know, we are looking at strategies and supports for not only students who are acquiring English as they acquire content, but we're also looking at strategies that are beneficial for all the students in the classroom. When we're talking about integrated ELD, we're looking at strategies that happen during content hours, content time for all students. And so, you know, you're looking at strategies that are going to be beneficial for our English language learners. And GLAD, like Ms. Gutierrez said, is a methodology, pedagogy for English language learners has been contrasted and researched to be effective.
Rafa, give a couple examples. I think they're asking for a couple examples.
Like examples of, excuse me.
How in a content area, how GLAD would help.
Gen 2 strategy.
Thank you. Yeah, we do have several strategies for our students to be participants of content. One strategy would be the content cognitive dictionary. This is one strategy where students will be able to participate with the teacher in the production and elaboration of vocabulary terms for a specific subject. Now, that's going to be a visual that the teacher will have in the classroom during the time of the lesson or unit that he or she will be teaching. We have seen that already in some middle school classrooms, specifically some of our DLI classrooms, where our students, English language learners, have access to that. The other one, we're looking at a possibility of having chats in the classroom, where content is produced in terms of popular and very interesting ways of learning vocabulary and terminology through chants that the students will recite over time in ways that they're going to be able to internalize content. So those are two examples of what we understand as input that the students can do. We have other examples, and we're more than glad, to share with you.
Are you saying chants as in a sequence of words?
Sequence of words where we introduce academic vocabulary on a specific term. And those are specific strategies that the students use for oral language development. Understand that these are going to be ways that we're going to have our students participate in the learning of vocabulary in ways that are going to be we want our students to be participating in the process.
I absolutely agree. They should be participating in the process, but I'm picturing an 11th grade class that I would have taught doing chants. I'm lost.
That's why they're developing a separate training for secondary so that it's age appropriate. I think you're referring to the fact that that may not be an age appropriate strategy. That's why they're developing a secondary series of trainings so that it's more focused on the high school environment.
In a mixed classroom that is in which they are mainstreamed, especially in the secondary world. Yeah, I don't see how, it's almost gonna make the EL learners stick out even more. I am interested to see how this is going to play out. It sounds more like an elementary program than it does, maybe even middle school. I can't picture how this is going to work in high school core classes such as physics.
Yes, we do have, for Project Lab, we have 30+ strategies. I mentioned a few of them, but definitely we have different strategies for different parts of the learning process. I mentioned two that are done in the beginning of the 6 weeks, sometimes units that are being taught with Project Lab. Obviously, we're looking at ways that we can make the students participate in the process. And whether this is going to be through plays, chants, etc. We have pictorial, and so we have opportunity to support all students. We have seen Project Lab already in some classrooms. Rancho Buena Vista, we have examples of Project Lab in history classes. We have also Project Lab at some of the secondary schools and middle schools like Roosevelt and Madison. Again, this is going to be something that we're going to play out for the students in ways that is appropriate for their age, and also in ways that that we can have students participating in the learning.
Can you send me some of the classroom, where the classrooms are, so that I can see this happening in secondary, middle school and high school, please?
Absolutely, yeah, with my pleasure, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple, does anybody else have any? Okay, so I have a couple things. I don't understand why we are having our administrators go through GLAD training, because this is my understanding, this is a classroom. This is a classroom program.
Correct. That is instructional leaders. Our principals are responsible for the evaluation of the teachers, right? And in terms of that, making sure that we're providing our students with English language development. So if we're specifically addressing a strategy like GLAD, right, the guide, we agreed to utilize this, has how we are going to address our English language learners. So if we're getting all of our teachers trained, our administrators should know what the training looks like. It's not just because they are the evaluators, but because if we're committing as a district, which we got approval on, in providing GLAD to address the needs of our students, the principal should be able to walk through and see the effective practices in the classroom and how our students are using it. And so that is why it's an effective practice to have our principals have an understanding of the instruction and what it looks like.
It is an abbreviated training. It's a 2-day training.
It's not the 7, it's 2 days.
For $101,000?
No,
for-
no, that's,
It was 55,000. And that was to provide training to the 82 administrators.
Okay, thank you. Now, I do want to go over these contracts. Because I have a lot of questions about these contracts. So first we go back to the one that's $198,000 that was approved in June 20th of 2024. It's contract number V232504656.
yeah, we have it right up here.
Yes.
Okay, so, one of the things that I'm really freaking out about, or maybe not freaking out, but I'm sort of like, it's really not sitting well with me, is, the travel fees. This is Orange County Department of Education, and we're paying, as near as I can figure, we're paying $15,000 to have 2 trainers come down from Orange County for a 3-day workshop. And we're doing that repeatedly. I think there's 5 or 6 of them. So $75,000 of this $198,000 is going for travel fees, which seems egregious coming from Orange County. I mean, if they were coming from New York or something, maybe.
So I can't speak specific to the cost of the mileage, but what I can address is that we have multiple teachers that are preschool TKK that need to get the training, so that we would also be able to utilize the early educator teacher development grant. And so we need to be able to provide our students with teachers that are highly qualified and that are able to address the needs of our our preschool TKK students. And so in terms of the breakdown specifically for the cost related to the travel from the trainers, I don't have the specifics of that right
I do. It is, let's see, we have 14, it's cost per participant. I'm assuming that $15,000. I'm assuming that the trainer's coming down here. We're not sending our teachers up there,
now.
right?
Correct,
Okay,
Yes.
so if we have 2 trainers coming from
yes. Orange County.
Orange County
Mhm.
for a 3-day workshop at $15,000, that comes to $7,500 per person or $2,500 per person per day. That seems like a lot, and given that we're gonna be having, well, we already have 1 person trained in the district that can at least train our elementary school people on our TK and kinder. I kind of think that we could save a lot of money if we don't go through these trainings and just start doing it in-house, and we're gonna have the other 2 that are done.
That's the plan.
And so
But these trainings are taking place next week and the week after, and February 18th through the 21st and February 25th through the 28th. So we could actually get out of this contract and save a lot of money.
So I will, okay.
So we have different questions on it. One is, can you get out of the contract next week? The answer is no, you committed to that contract on June 20th.
No, it says in here, there's
A 30-day nullification that would have to be initiated for most contracts versus the next week of nullification.
okay, then we could do the next 2, that we could do the ones that are the next week and the week after, but then we can get out of the ones that are in February.
Or we would have to submit the nullification and then they would respond. That's the normal process for any item. But to clarify, that was part of the contracting process, with that. So that would have to be a board vote to nullify a contract.
Well, that's, we would have to agendize that. That is not
Yes.
agendized tonight. And not that I'm minimizing that. We can talk about that, but that's not on the agenda for tonight. That's something that was approved months ago.
So
So
it was approved in June, but we are talking about the these GLAD contracts, they are on the agenda tonight, so I think we can. It says right there, there's the contract number. B 242-504-65C, so I would say that counts as agendized.
I recommend.
Okay.
hold on, let me clarify this so we're all clear. I'm not suggesting that the board can't have a conversation about that. You can, but it is not agendized as an action item. This is a board report. So there is no action item on the table that we're clarifying.
Question?
Yes.
We have one person trained in the district right now,
Yes.
Correct.
and can that person, is that person trained enough to be able to do these trainings for any of our teachers?
So I have Senator address that.
So the pre-K, TK, K GLAD training is a specialized training targeted towards early educators. Just as you were talking about earlier, secondary teachers have a completely different world. And early primary teachers, it's a completely different thing. The only thing available to our teachers has been the standard GLAD training, which is what our trainer is trained to provide. So because we had this early educator teacher development grant, we were able to, and one of the goals is to make sure that they have culturally and linguistically appropriate practices in those early childhood environments. It is a specialized training only provided by Orange County. They do not offer a trainer of trainer certification. So at this time, we don't have anyone that can provide that. All of the teachers have already started the process. They have all already completed day one. So what's coming up is their 4-day practicum to complete their certification process. So all of them have started the work that's in on that particular contract.
For the TK, K,
Correct.
okay, how many, do we know how many of those teachers are retiring, and are we letting them out of this training so we don't have to pay for it?
So we have 13 teachers that are scheduled to come to any trainings coming up that are on the list to retire. And 9 of those are TKK teachers. So we already have a contract for them. They've already started the training. We will already have to pay for their training. If any teacher who has notified us that they don't want to come to training because they're retiring, we're taking them off the list. In the case of the TKK, we've been kind of holding firm because we have to pay for them. For the other teachers, we don't have to pay if they don't attend. We've been filling their spots. But if the board directs us to allow them to not attend, we still have to pay for their participation.
Okay, I did want to clarify something. So Dr. Doyle, does that mean that $22,000 that I said that we could approve under this item, we cannot approve that under this item?
You guys already had a conversation about that during the consolidated motion, and I mentioned that we could bring that 22,000 back to a future meeting. But you cannot approve it under this item because this is a report, not an action item.
Okay, so that was, I believe I said to bring it over this, under this item, so there was a misunderstanding then, because.
Yes, it was a misunderstanding. I mentioned at the time you brought it up earlier this evening, that that is an item that could be brought back to a future board meeting.
Thank you.
What other items, can an educator effectiveness grant pay for?
Kelly,
I'm sorry.
educator effectiveness.
Yes.
What is it principally purchased for? Purposed for?
So it's actually, we can spend it on classified staff, certificated staff and administrators. And it's meant to build their capacity in whatever their work is.
It's fairly broad.
But it can't be repurposed for anything else. This
No.
is just for
Building capacity.
professional development with our employees.
Correct.
What happens if we don't spend that money?
Any money we don't spend, we have to send back. If it's federal or state, we send back to the appropriate agency. But with that particular funding source, I think we have until 26, 27, I believe, before it expires.
So the 25, 26, or 26, 27. I'm pretty sure it's 26, 27. No, so we have a couple of years. Yes, okay. We'll wait, that's fine.
Okay, any further conversations? Anything, questions, comments? Okay, again. I mean, I think this is an important program. I love this program. I don't want anyone to mistake that I don't think the world of this program. But I also think that some of these things are raising red flags, like the travel expenses. That to me seems, it's obscene. That's that's unconscionable. And that could have, I kind of feel like that could have been negotiated a little bit, but it also says in the contract that it was, that the actuals are being billed, so I'd like to see what the actuals were. From that.
Yeah, we can absolutely do that for you and get clarification. Oftentimes in these broad contracts, just to clarify for it, the amount is the equivalent of what we would call in a different venue, a not to exceed amount. It doesn't always exactly equate to that amount. Oftentimes it's up to that amount depending upon circumstance. And regarding the last item with the various ones, we certainly can bring back the 22,000. A different way it occurred to me to think of this is if in December 2023, if a contract had been requested at this juncture, the contract would have been issued about February of 2024. We would have amended that contract of February 2024 to include $55,000 more because it's the same type of services for them. So it would have been an amended addendum contract. It's just the sequencing that's so confusing here, but we can bring back the 22,000.
Well, it's also this, like, a lot of the contracts are the same number, so that's very confusing.
100%, absolutely. And like I said, my statement was, I can see that anybody reasonably can get very confused over the numbers shooting back and forth because they're all very similar. And it's a sequencing issue as well.
And one final question is, we're training these, 3 TOSAs or 4 TOSAs, we'll have 4.
We'll have 4, yes.
We'll have 4. What is the plan for making sure that we always have at least 3 TOSAs, trained TOSAs in the district at any time to continue this? Is there a plan for that?
Well, our plan is to retain all 4 of them. But I don't know what your group question is, but
I get that, but if sometimes life happens, so I understand that there's 4, you've got 4, and if one of them, if we're gonna lose one, I kind of think that we should have a couple in the pipeline. That
oh yeah, we would have.
trained too, so that.
Like, you're referring to a sustainability plan. So we have
That's
4.
it.
And we likely would have 1 or 2 more go to trainer of trainers in the future, so that should someone move, we can replace them, yeah, just like we do with anything else.
Could I just get an idea of like what our trainer is doing now? Like how many people, like does he hold workshops for the district and teachers and?
Sandra?
Yes,
Absolutely. He is one of the most loved people in the elementary schools right now. So he is providing a lot of the Part 2 training right now. One of the challenges we faced is SDCUA just does not have trainers. So he is a trainer for most of these trainings for us, but then he's following up and doing demonstration and coaching with teachers in the classroom. He's going into those Monday collaboration times at school sites and reviewing strategies or previewing for those who have not yet attended. And he has been offering workshops to our counselor groups, so different groups around the district about how to incorporate GLAD strategies into all that we do.
I have one more question. I thought I heard that we have some teachers from San Marcos that are attending our trainings. Is that true?
So all of the workshops that we've set up with the county office, we have first rights to. So we've maxed out the number of subs that we have. I have not seen that we've had outside teachers at the ones that we've hosted here. But our people are going to San Marcos. They are also in the trainer of trainer model.
We don't pay for the San Marcos.
No. And as a matter of fact, once our people get trained, we will be able to stock our trainings with as many as we can host without a fee, except for materials. And we will be able to charge other districts to come to our training.
I see.
So actually have a fee recovery model.
Okay, thank you. That, I like that.
Yeah. Well, good.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we are going to move on. Oh my gosh. Okay, so, district announcements.
Yep, I just have one announcement to make. I'll be very quick. So this is, if you're not aware, this is School Board Recognition Month. So I do have a statement to read. This unified school district celebrates School Board Recognition Month. The USD is proud to join more than 1,000 local education agencies in the state, recognizing the contributions of board members during the School Board Recognition Month. The Vista Unified School District Board of Trustees are Rita Morocco, Sue Martin, Mike Markoff, Martha Alvarado, Cipriano Vargas. Board members are essential in establishing the foundations, policies, setting priorities that help drive student success. The USD is thankful for the dedicated service of our school board members who juggle full-time jobs, their families, and other responsibilities, but work tirelessly to create a safer and more welcoming learning environment for our students. We deeply appreciate the USD Board of Trustees for their unwavering support in meeting the needs of all the USD students. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay, and now we'll move on to board business discussion, requests for future board agenda items, and Trustee Alvarado, you wanted that presentation in the tech?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Okay.
Say that one more time. I just want to make sure I got that.
It was a discussion on Seth AI
Let's have a look at
and,
it. Yeah, I got it.
You got it?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Sue, don't worry about it.
We're good. We're good.
And then, any other board requests? Okay, now this is, I moved the board member reports since it was listed twice. I moved it to the end because that's something that we can, if we needed to cut it for time's sake, we could do that. So, but right now is the time for board member reports out. Does anyone want to go first?
go ahead.
I'll go. In the month since I joined the board, I did go to the PDs for certificated, I went to the PD for classified. And then I had a really great experience going to the principals meeting, so been a little busy and just, trying to learn the job.
Awesome, thank you. We'll go over to Trustee Alvarado.
I was very happy to join the new pre-apprenticeship class 2 last week. It was a packed class, and it was always exciting to see the possibilities for those men and women in the program. And yeah, we have a great program here and great facilities for them to learn in, so it's great. I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Trustee Vargas.
Yes, the San Diego County Board Association is something, nominations for honoring our own. And so Dr. Doyle, you should receive an email, but if any school personnel and board members, please do submit them. They're due February 14th. We want to show appreciation to our working staff and team here at VSD. So hopefully get some good nominees.
Yeah, please let us know, board members, if you have any thoughts. We're already working on it, but if you have an individual in mind, please let us know.
Thank you. Trustee Marco.
My time was very basic. I got to do some onboarding sessions and I did some personal reading with the AMAC report and long range facilities master plan. That was my fun comment.
Your homework.
My homework.
Thank you. For me, it was, of course, we had, it was short because we had the board meeting and then we had holidays and I did do the leadership meeting yesterday. I went over to the, I got to take a look at the future Bovier site. It's pretty exciting. It's like crazy. There was a conveyor belt that they used to put in the dirt behind the retaining walls. That was pretty wild.
Cool.
Yeah, it's coming along. So that was exciting. Trying to think what else I've done for the, just board prep and so yeah, that's what I've done. Awesome. So with that, do we have any board member reflection on board meetings and maybe what do you think of the new format? I'd like to hear my colleagues on that. Do we want to start with Trustee Alvarado? Do you want to start?
I think The end where we had the presentation on the budget, that's like prime time, right? And I don't know if when we're talking about a $300 million budget, if we want to wait till the end of the night. Because that's one of our main priorities is to maintain fiscal responsibility. So I just, it's my 2 cents. It's an important presentation, the budget.
I understand that, but at the same time, we do have to conduct business, so that's why I wanted to put all the business stuff up at the front, and then this presentation, which we're doing discussion. And you're right, it's all important, everything's all important here that we do. But I was trying to make sure that we get the business out of the way, and then the presentations, you know, we can put that at the end. And as it is, I think anyway, that was that. Trustee Vargas.
Yeah, the format, you know, where it goes at the end, it's always unfortunate, because I know that's when we're, you know, been going for more than 12 hours, or at least some of us. It's working just fine. I do think we have to be mindful, you know, when you have board meetings where we have a lot of public commenters. Tonight was not one of those nights, but you know, we'll eventually have some of those. And so just being mindful, we gotta reshuffle the agenda. And then lastly, you know, for any major items on the agenda, having attachments that are critical to the content of the conversation, that may be important for us to read in advance, you know. I'm fortunate to have, you know, been on this board for 8 years, so I have some historical knowledge, but not all my colleagues have that same historical knowledge.
Thank you. Trustee Marco?
You know, I'm kind of comparing, tonight with the last meeting, and, I remember when we were kind of going through those last votes, I was tired, and we were kind of going through it in one way or the other, and you feel the pressure of time, and I actually sort of prefer this, model a little bit, because I'm more or less listening to other people talk and give a report, and I can ask them questions, and my vote isn't happening. Your vote happens, you know, when you're awake and you can pull items and talk about them in discussion. So to me, like, I feel like tonight was a little better for me.
Thank you. Trustee Martin?
I do like the new format. I'm fine with it.
Thank you. Okay, and with that, our next regular board meeting will be Thursday, February 6th. We are having is it a workshop or a special board meeting?
Special board meeting.
So it will be broadcast.
It will not be. The only board meetings that are broadcast are regularly scheduled board meetings.
Okay,
So
is that, okay,
Yeah.
all right,
It's
so
always been the case.
it will be a special board meeting,
Yeah.
not a workshop.
On governance.
On governance and the budget.
Correct.
Okay,
Did you
and
figure out who our presenter is, by the way? for that?
Yes, it's F3, Peter.
Perfect.
Okay, and with that, I am going to adjourn the meeting at 10:05 PM.